Chapter 35-34. Lu Li's return had reassured the Lu Alliance. Lu Renhuang had gained a large amount of resources and treasures. Lu Renhuang began a plan for the next batch of elite warriors. Over the years, the Central King universe had been recuperating. Civilians were encouraged to marry and have more children. The families that ruled the region would give them rewards. Therefore, over the years, the population of the Central King universe had been increasing. With more people, there would be more talented children. Once those children were discovered, they would be sent to the Liberty City to be trained by Saint Emperor Xiaoyao subordinates. Now, the Central King universe was unified. None of the major families dared to disobey Saint Emperor Xiaoyao's orders. Of course, the Central King universe belonged to Lu Li rather than Saint Emperor Xiaoyao. Lu Li was more like the supreme emperor of the Central King universe. Every time the Lu Alliance went back to mobilize elites, they would send back countless resources and spread the news. Now, all the Central King universe knew that the Central King universe was only a small one. There was a vast world out there. Emperors were powerful warriors in the Central King universe, but they were nothing out there. Saint Emperors were nothing. There were many places out there and 8 powerful galaxies. The 8 galaxies were filled with powerful warriors and Saint Emperors. Their respected Lu Renhuang was in the Chaotic Star region, one of the 8 galaxies. He was a leader in the Reaper, one of the 12 masters of the Chaotic Star region. He had countless Saint Emperors working for him, not to mention emperors. For the civilians of a Middle King realm, Lu Li was an immortal standing high above the masses. Lu Li's decree was the decree of the gods. Every once in a while, Lu Li would select some elites, and some warriors would come back because they were tired of the outside world. They would become instructors of Saint Emperor Xiaoyao to train the elite warriors. They would tell them what they had seen and heard in the outside world. Gradually, the news spread out. For many young warriors, it was their biggest dream to leave the Central King universe to join the Lu Alliance in the Chaotic Star region. Once they joined the Lu Alliance, they would have a huge stage where they could soar. Over the years, tens of thousands of warriors that joined the Lu Alliance had ascended to higher realms. It was said that a young master from a major family at the Flying Fire Continent had reached the Emperor realm and became a patriarch of the Lu Alliance. As an elder of the Lu Alliance, he would be the most powerful person in the entire Grim Reaper, or even the entire Chaotic Starfield. Therefore, countless young people wanted to join the Lu Alliance. They all hoped that the Lu Alliance would send people to select elite martial artists. The great families of the Middle King realms also sent their outstanding disciples to Carefree City, hoping that the Lu Alliance would take a liking to them. For those small families, the moment their family members joined the Lu Union, they would immediately be like carps leaping through the Dragon Gate. The nearby clans didn't dare to bully them anymore, because what if their clan's martial artists stayed in the Lu Union for hundreds or thousands of years and became emperors or Saint Emperors? The Middle King realms were developing, the Lu Alliance was also developing rapidly, and so was the Grim Reaper. Everything was on the right track. Lu Li had nothing to do. He went to the Heavenland realm to visit the young elites from the Middle King realms and gave them some words of encouragement. Those young elites could not sleep for half a month. They were so excited. Then, Lu Li went on a sightseeing tour with his wives and concubines. They wandered around the universe occupied by the Grim Reaper and patrolled around to learn more about the situation. The Grim Reaper occupied almost 1,000 universes. Lu Li spent 2 years to visit half of them, not to mention all of them. After 2 years of sightseeing with his wives and concubines, Lu Li finally had some time to relax. During these 2 years, he had been thinking about his future path of cultivation. Normally speaking, he should be at the peak of his abilities. But he was satisfied that he had reached this stage. He was just a kid from the mortal realm. It was already heaven-defying for him to have become a deity. Yet, he had walked step by step all the way to where he was today. He was even able to exchange a few blows with the most powerful Great Perfection deities. The Great Perfection deity of the Gang tribe even respected him greatly. He had conquered a race with 2 absolute peak warriors all by himself. He had no regrets in his life. The only thing he was worried about was Little White. If Little White could reach the absolute peak and stabilize its position as the king of the East region, then he would have nothing to pursue in this life. He had so many beautiful wives and concubines, his family was thriving, and the Middle King realms were developing in his hands. Everything was perfect. Well, I don't have much to do. Time to improve my realm. Luli decided to go back and cultivate. He was at the peak of the Emperor realm. For a warrior, this realm was not good enough. He must find a way to reach the Saint Emperor realm. The Grim Reaper had many secret areas and some strange places. They also had a way to go through Heaven's tribulation. For them, Heaven's tribulation was not difficult. They had many top-level elixirs, some of which were helpful for Heaven's tribulation. Back at the Heaven's Edge city, Luli found that there were 4 more warriors that were almost at the absolute peak. 4 more warriors had been recruited in 2 years. This was efficient. Luli did not know that it was because of him that so many warriors were joining the Grim Reaper. In the battle at the Tiangang Galaxy, Luli defeated the Duans all by himself, which boosted the prestige of the Grim Reaper. In addition, 2 years ago, the 7 powerhouses who joined the Alliance were infinitely close to the consummate level. One of them became a powerhouse, while the other 6 became great elders. All of them were divided into territories and were gradually granted some authority. This made many old demons somewhat acknowledge the Grim Reaper. Back then, the fact that the Grim Reaper could defeat the Duans was spread out. Behind the Grim Reaper was the son of the king of the Eastern region. Many warriors that were almost at the absolute peak were in awe of the Grim Reaper. The Grim Reaper was not strong at the moment, but it could become the second Dawns if it could develop. The more powerful warriors, the better. As a matter of fact, the Grim Reaper's territory was so large that it could have more than 100 warriors that were almost at the absolute peak. What was more, the Grim Reaper now had branches in all 7 galaxies. They were in need of a large number of powerful warriors. Their assassin business could earn a large number of celestial stones every year. The Grim Reaper was in need of nothing but powerful warriors. The Grim Reaper also quietly spread the word that any powerhouse who was infinitely close to the Great Perfection realm would be given a realm. Although it wasn't a particularly rich realm, having a realm meant that the powerhouse's race would have a lot of room for development. Luli. As soon as Luli entered the Lu mansion, Emperor Mo came. He went straight to the point. When you were outside, the 9 of us had a discussion and decided to start dividing into factions. In the future, on the surface, there will be all kinds of fights. Of course, we will not go too far. Why? Luli blinked in embarrassment. The Grim Reaper was still in a period of rapid development. Wouldn't this be damaging the foundation? How could the Grim Reaper develop with endless infighting? For balance and for control. Emperor Mo explained, recently, we have received news that there will be another 7 or 8 warriors that are almost at the absolute peak coming from the southeast to join us. Think about it. In the future, we will have more and more powerful warriors. But we don't have warriors at the absolute peak. How can we subdue them? What if we have 50 great patriarchs and they unite? By then, we will die a tragic death. Chapter 35:35. Luli understood what Emperor Mo was trying to say. The god of death would usher in a period of rapid development. There might be many warriors that were close to the absolute completion of the god of death. The god of death would not turn down powerful warriors. The god of death needed powerful warriors as well. The problem was that the god of death did not have a supreme warrior to hold the fort. If there was one at the absolute completion, the others would not be a problem. Even if there were 1,000 warriors that were close to the absolute completion, the god of death would be able to handle them. By the looks of it, it was almost impossible for Emperor Li, Emperor Mo, and Emperor of Wings to reach the absolute completion. It was impossible for Luli to do so. Luli was still at the Emperor realm. The god of death did not have many powerful warriors at the moment. Once dozens joined the god of death, how could the god of death suppress them? How could the 10 leaders suppress dozens of warriors that were close to the absolute completion? Emperor Li and the others were not particularly strong. Take Emperor Yu, for example. He was weaker than the warriors that joined later. At first, the powerful warriors might not say anything. But as time went by, They would become part of the god of death and unite with other powerful warriors. In time, the god of death would have their opinions. They were stronger than them. Why were they the leaders? Why were they superior? Once dozens of powerful warriors joined hands, they could kill the 10 leaders easily. By then, the god of death would change. Preparing for a rainy day was a good strategy that Emperor Mo and the others came up with. The strategy they came up with was that the 10 leaders would gather together a group of warriors that were close to the absolute completion and then fight against each other openly and covertly. Each of the 10 leaders would gather together several powerful warriors, and they would be divided into 10 forces. After a long period of open and covert fighting, the 10 forces would be secretly hostile to each other. The newly joined warriors would have to join a side, or else they would be pushed aside and suppressed. Since all the powerful warriors had joined the fight, then they could not unite, which would be more controllable. The 10 major factions kept each other in check and suppressed each other. The 10 giants were always able to act as judges and secretly control this major force. The Grim Reaper was always able to condense into a rope. Lu Li and Emperor Mo discussed for a while. Then, they went to the council hall and gathered all the leaders. Lu Li highly approved of the strategy that the 9 leaders came up with. But there were some details that needed to be discussed. There is a problem. Lu Li said seriously, "We are divided into 10 factions. This is not a problem. There won't be any problems in the early stages, but as time passes, we might have to resort to acting for real. The people above us may not be hostile, but as our clansmen and subordinates fight, we will slowly become hostile. In the end, we may really become enemies, or we may really start a war. At that time, the situation will get out of hand, and we, the Grim Reaper, will also decline due to the constant internal strife." As soon as Lu Li finished his words, all the powerful warriors said nothing. Lu Li's words did make sense. At the very least, there were some signs now. The Li family and the Lu family didn't have a good relationship, and the Li family hated the Lu family. Once the higher-ups acquiesced to the fight, the Lu family and the Li family would be in conflict. Lu Li and the others, as powerful warriors, could not step in. By then, the fight would be even fiercer. Both sides might suffer massive casualties. The Lu alliance had many disciples, and so did the Li clan. Once a battle broke out, both sides would suffer heavy casualties. At that time, the losses would outweigh the gains. The 10 leaders of the Grim Reaper were on good terms. At the very least, they were all working for the good of the Grim Reaper. However, as time went by, there would be disputes over interests. It was inevitable that the leaders would not hate each other and they would not act rashly. By then, it would be a disaster for the Grim Reaper. On this thought, the leaders broke out in a cold sweat. They had thought this was a good plan, but it seemed that it could bring the Grim Reaper into the abyss. But without this plan, how could the 10 leaders suppress the warriors that joined later? Right now, there were more and more powerful beings joining in. "I suggest," Lu Li said, "we will write some things down in the rules. The rules are created to restrain the 10 leaders. If someone violates the rules and crosses the line, then the other leaders will kill him together. As long as there is clear evidence, no rebuttal will work. We will kill him regardless of the reason." "I think so." Emperor Mo nodded and said, "We can go too far on small matters, but we cannot compromise on principles." "Agreed." Emperor of Wings and Emperor of Feather agreed. Emperor Li nodded as well. After all, if there were no restrictions, the Grim Reaper would be destroyed. After a pause, Lu Li proposed the first rule. "Under no circumstances can we murder the immediate family members of the other party. Even if they have done something wrong and are guilty, they must be tried publicly. They cannot be killed directly. An eye for an eye. Shielding the leaders of your subordinates or family members is against the rules." "Agreed. This is good." "I agree." The leaders nodded. This rule was good for everyone. Subordinates could do whatever they wanted, but at least the immediate family members could not be harmed. That was the most important strength of their race and the foundation for their development and continuity. If the immediate family members were constantly being killed, then there would be nothing left to do. The second rule. Emperor Mo said after some thoughts. The factions can work together to a limited extent, but they cannot secretly attack each other. Otherwise, when the factions work together, one faction will be destroyed in an instant. Agreed. That is right. Emperor Yu said, I don't think warriors that are infinitely close to the consummate realm can take actions. Otherwise, the damage will be too great. The factions must restrain their most powerful warriors. Once a powerful warrior takes action, we must judge him together and punish him severely. If the crime is serious, we can kill him directly. Well, I think it is possible, Luli nodded. This rule is important. It is okay for the lower realms of the Emperor realm and Saint Emperors to mess around. If warriors that are infinitely close to the consummate realm get involved, then the damage will be greater and the foundation of the Grim Reaper will be damaged as well. I think there is another rule we can propose. Another leader added, we can set up some reward and punishment mechanisms to encourage them to compete in a healthy way. For example, they can go out to carry out missions and go to the 7 galaxies to earn fame for the Grim Reaper. We can give a very high reward, but we can also give a very heavy punishment. The rules were proposed one by one and supplemented one by one. The meeting lasted for 3 days and 3 nights. In the end, 21 rules were formulated. The rules would not be made public. They would be used to restrain the 9 leaders. Without the rules, the Grim Reaper would have internal strife in less than 5 years. With the rules in place, the Grim Reaper could be protected for hundreds of years. After the meeting of the 10 magnates, many magnates began to recruit subordinates in secret, especially those supreme experts who had just joined. They were the main targets of recruitment. The trump cards of the Grim Reaper were also the focus of recruitment. When the news spread out, the entire Grim Reaper was in an uproar. The Grim Reaper had its own factions, but they were not so blatant. Now, the leaders were almost openly forming their own factions. Were they going to start a civil war? The third leader. Chapter 35-36. Every force had its own factions. Even a small family would have its own factions, which was normal. There would be open and veiled fights within the major forces and races. But those were small fights that wouldn't affect the overall situation. Usually, the family patriarch or the leader of a force could control the situation. The Grim Reaper had no family patriarch and no absolute leader. The Grim Reaper was more like an alliance. The 10 giants were the 10 alliances. The Grim Reaper didn't have a complete warrior or a powerful warrior with absolute prestige to control the entire force. Luli had enough prestige. It was a pity that he hadn't been with the Grim Reaper for long, and he was only at the Emperor realm. He was too young to convince the public. There used to be factions within the Grim Reaper. Luli was on good terms with Emperor Yu, Emperor E, and Emperor Mo. Emperor Li was on good terms with other giants as well. There were also some neutral factions, but the infighting was not so obvious. On the surface, everyone seemed to be in harmony. The Grim Reaper was cohesive. The Grim Reaper was still developing rapidly. Were they going to start infighting now? More importantly, shouldn't the infighting be done in secret? From the looks of it, it seemed like they were going to start fighting on the surface. The 10 giants said nothing. They didn't give any explanation. They just kept trying to rope in their followers and asked them to pick a side. First of all, the newly joined warriors who were infinitely close to the completion of the Grim Reaper were under pressure. The 10 giants had sent their men to contact all the great patriarchs and ask them to pick a side. All the great patriarchs were troubled. If they didn't pick a side, it would affect them greatly. But now, the 10 giants had all sent their men to visit them. Even though the messages were vague, the message was clear. They must pick a side or else they wouldn't have a good life. All the patriarchs received hints as well. They must pick a side. If they didn't, they would be marginalized and lose their real power. Many other trump cards of the Grim Reaper received hints and asked them to pick a side. For a moment, everyone in the Grim Reaper was in a state of panic. Many senior members of the Grim Reaper were worried that the Grim Reaper that was about to rise would be destroyed. Many Grim Reaper tried to persuade the other giants through various channels. But the 10 giants said nothing. No message was passed down. Even the immediate descendants of the 10 major families didn't know the reason. This was also what Lu Li and the others had agreed on. This matter could not be leaked out, otherwise, those who were infinitely close to the consummate realm in the alliance would be alienated. It didn't matter if the Grim Reaper was in chaos for a period of time. It would slowly stabilize. As long as the 10 giants didn't fall into chaos, the Grim Reaper wouldn't fall into chaos. Lu Li asked Lu Renwang to recruit warriors. Even though Lu Renwang was not powerful, he was Lu Li's father. Nobody dared to belittle his identity and status. Instead, they would feel valued. Lu Renwang went to visit all the great patriarchs. He didn't make any promises. He just sent a message to Lu Li. He needed some help. Lu Li was determined to recruit Lu Li because the Lu alliance was too weak. Compared to the other forces, the Lu alliance was the weakest. There were only a few great Emperor Realm warriors working for them. Lu Li was the only one holding the fort. Therefore, the Lu alliance needed the support of strong allies. Otherwise, Lu Li would be at a disadvantage in the upcoming infighting. To Lu Li's surprise, a great patriarch who was infinitely close to the consummate realm came to surrender that night. He didn't want any promises, and he only wanted to follow Lu Li. On the second night, another great patriarch came. On the third and fourth day, the third great patriarch came. On the fifth day, another great patriarch came. Of the 10 great patriarchs of the Grim Reaper, 4 had come from Lu Li's side. Then came the patriarchs. There were many patriarchs of the Grim Reaper now. There were more than 100 patriarchs with real power but nominal positions. In 5 days, Lu Li had received more than 30, almost a quarter of the total. It had only been 5 days. There must be more to surrender. Lu Li was scared. The 10 giants had 10 factions. He had recruited so many warriors. How could the other forces compete? Lu Li had underestimated his influence. He was the soul of many of the higher-ups of the Grim Reaper. If it weren't for him, the Grim Reaper would have been destroyed by the Dagon race. In other words, Lu Li had saved the Grim Reaper and saved them. Then, Emperor Mo and the others went to the Tiangang Galaxy but suffered heavy losses. Even Emperor Bu died in battle. Lu Li went alone, but he almost wiped out the Dagon race and suppressed the Dagon race. What was more, Lu Li had the king of the eastern region behind him, which was the foundation for the Grim Reaper to become one of the 12 masters. Without Lu Li, the Grim Reaper would have been destroyed, not to mention becoming one of the 12 masters. As long as Lu Li was in the Grim Reaper's position would be stable. In other words, when Lu Li was gone, the Grim Reaper would be doomed. Since they had to choose sides, they had to choose the strongest. The original patriarchs were close to Emperor Li, and they had been relying on the Grim Reaper for many years. It was not appropriate for them to switch sides. However, the later patriarchs and great patriarchs did not have such concerns. Naturally, they came to Lu Li's side to show their loyalty at once. Sure enough, as time went on, more and more patriarchs and powerful warriors joined Lu Li's side. 2 months later, almost all the middle-level and higher-ups of the Grim Reaper had chosen sides. Then came a dramatic scene. Lu Li's side occupied 30% of the powerful warriors of the Grim Reaper, and the other 9 leaders divided the remaining 70%. Lu Li's side dominated. Emperor Li and the other patriarchs were dumbfounded. What else could they do? At first, they had thought that the 10 of them would share the powerful warriors and the territory of the Grim Reaper. In this way, they could fight among themselves without hurting the foundation. Now that the factions were divided, they realized that Lu Li had become the absolute overlord. What was more, Lu Li was close to Emperor Mo, Emperor Yu, and Emperor Wing. The Grim Reaper was practically Lu Li's. If Lu Li wanted to dominate and become the only overlord of the Grim Reaper, he could mobilize powerful warriors and wipe out Emperor Li and the other patriarchs easily. They had shot themselves in the foot. Emperor Li and Emperor Yu felt like bursting into tears. They had wanted to use this opportunity to suppress Lu Li. After all, Lu Li's foundation was shallow, and he was too young to convince the others. On the other hand, they had been operating in the Grim Reaper for so many years. They must have more powerful warriors with them than Lu Li. Lu Li only had the Lu Alliance. When he could not stand on his own, he would be at the mercy of Emperor Li and the Grim Reaper. At this point, there was no turning back. All the agreements had been enshrined in the ironclad law. If Emperor Li and the other patriarchs went back on their words, Lu Li could destroy them easily. Also, all the powerful warriors were willing to follow Lu Li. Lu Li only sent one message to each of them. Come on, he needed help. They promised great benefits and even went to those powerful warriors in person. However, they could not resist Lu Li's call. Emperor Li and the other patriarchs sent secret messages to express their concerns. The other patriarchs did not know what to feel. Only Emperor Mo, Emperor Yu, and Emperor Wing were not worried. Lu Li was close to them, and they knew Lu Li's character well. Lu Li was gentle, loyal, and the kind that would not offend others if they did not offend him. What was done could not be undone. What else could Emperor Li and the other patriarchs do? They had no choice but to drink the poison that they had given themselves. Fortunately, Lu Li did not attach much importance to power. At the moment, it was not a bad thing for Lu Li to have a monopoly. If Emperor Mo and the other patriarchs had a monopoly, the situation would be even worse. Master 3. Chapter 35-37. After forming factions, internal strife naturally began. These internal strife were deliberately arranged by the 10 giants. For example, the Elder Hall set up an Elder Council, and most of the decisions needed to be decided by the Elder Council. In the past, it was nothing, but now it was divided into factions. Under the secret command of the 10 giants, they began to compete for the interests of each faction. Often, a small matter would cause a long fight. First, the Elder Hall fought, then the various halls below began to fight, and finally, the death gods below began to fight. However, the 10 giants had formed a law enforcement team. Fighting was allowed, but no one could die. If there was a feud that could not be resolved, then they would sign a life and death contract and go to the duel field to fight, regardless of life or death. A set of reward and punishment mechanisms also came out. Those who made great contributions would be heavily rewarded, and those who made mistakes would be heavily punished. Moreover, the rewards were very heavy, and the punishment was also very heavy. There was no room for negotiation in this reward and punishment mechanism. All the terms of reward and punishment were directly implemented by the Elder Hall. The 10 giants were the highest leaders. The biggest matters needed to be discussed and determined by the 10 giants, and ordinary matters were decided by the Elder Hall. The Elder's Hall did not differentiate between the Great Elder and the Second Elder. Most things were decided by voting. This was done on purpose by the 10 giants. They wanted the Elder's Hall to be noisy and fight each other. In addition, the Great Elders also began to frequently go out on missions. This was a test of their loyalty and ability. Only after the test could they rest assured and use them boldly. The 10 giants were prepared to let these great elders go down to the Elder Hall one after another, each commanding a department, and let these great elders also fight so that they could sit on the fishing platform. They could not let these great elders be idle. Once they were idle, there would definitely be problems. They had to let them fight, let these great elders fight each other so that they could act as referees and control the overall situation. Their original intention was to divide the group of great elders so that they could not unite and let them fight each other so that they could control the situation. This was actually a method that many of the higher-ups of the forces liked to use. The way of governing was about balance and control. They could not let the subordinates unite. They had to let the subordinates fight, and the higher-ups would act as referees. If one side was strong, they would suppress the other side, and if one side was weak, they would support the other side. This way, they could always maintain a high position and control the overall situation. As time passed, the internal strife of the death gods became more and more serious, and the Elder Hall was quarreling every day. The family members of the 9 great tycoons also began to quarrel with each other, which then developed into fights. Fortunately, they didn't go too far. However, it was common to hear that the great-grandson of some big shot would break the head of a direct descendant of that family's young master, or even chop off his hands and feet. As long as no one was killed, everything else was fine. The various giants also issued strict orders. They could cause trouble, but there were some matters of principle that couldn't be messed up. If someone died, then no one would be able to save them. The Hall of Elders wouldn't even judge them. They would be directly executed. This was not a joke, because it was written in the iron law of the giants. If a giant tried to protect someone, then that giant would be killed by the other giants. There was no room for compromise. It was written in the iron law that no one could violate. If one violated it, then the iron law would become a joke, and the death god would also become chaotic. In the end, the death god would be destroyed, and everyone would be finished. For months later, the young master of the Yu family didn't believe it and tried it himself. He had a conflict with a young master of the Yu family in one of the main cities of the Heavenly Dragon Realm. Both sides had drunk too much and started fighting without saying a word. Then, the young master accidentally killed the young master of the Yu family, and he did it himself. After the death, the young master sobered up and fled at once. He fled to a place controlled by the Yu family and hid there. As a result, he was caught by the law enforcement team 10 days after he fled. Then he was tried by the Hall of Patriarchs and sentenced to death. The execution was carried out in the Tianyu's city. Emperor Yu didn't say anything about this from beginning to end, nor did he plead for mercy. Even when the young master's father knelt outside Emperor Yu's residence for a whole night, Emperor Yu didn't see him. The young master was killed in public. Then the 10 giants jointly issued a notice, issuing some iron laws. Anyone who violated the law would be killed without mercy. There was no room for negotiation. The young masters and young ladies of the 10 families were frightened. They knew it was not a joke. Anyone who violated the law would have to die. There was no room for negotiation. Lu Li gathered all the disciples of the immediate Lu family together and told them the iron laws in a serious manner. The immediate disciples of the Lu alliance were sensible, but they were not from rich families. Compared to other races, they were losers. Generally speaking, they were not powerful. What was more, they knew that the Lu alliance was weak now. They shouldn't go out and mess around. Otherwise, it would bring endless disasters to the Lu alliance. As a matter of fact, the Lu alliance was weak, but Lu Li's force was strong. He had 1/3 of the powerful warriors of the Grim Reaper. Many important clans were under Lu Li's command. Since Lu Li's force was so powerful, the other forces didn't dare to challenge him. Since the Lu alliance was in a superior position, Lu Li told his men that if the other forces didn't mess with them, then they should leave them alone. They should maintain their superior position. If anyone did mess with them, then they should fight back. As long as they didn't violate the iron laws, then they should fight back. Lu Li would take responsibility for everything. With Lu Li's words, the powerful warriors and warriors of his force were reassured. They all had a sense of superiority. They were secretly delighted that they had gone to Lu Li's side. If they had gone to other forces, then they wouldn't have such an easy time. There were more than 160 patriarchs in the Hall of Patriarchs, and Lu Li had nearly 50 of them. This was a powerful force. The patriarchs of the other forces didn't dare to offend the Hall of Patriarchs, because many decisions required their support. As long as the patriarchs of Lu Li's force agreed, then the decision would be passed at the Hall of Patriarchs. Lu Li's order was to stay out of things as long as it didn't involve the interests of the Grim Reaper. Of course, the Hall of Patriarchs must be fair. Any decision that went against the interests of the Grim Reaper must be vetoed. Lu Li's strategy had made his force a superior presence in the Hall of Patriarchs. Any force that wanted to fight for interests and to make a strong decision must have the support of Lu Li's force. 2 years later, there were 18 great patriarchs on the Grim Reaper's side. There were 8 more great patriarchs. Of the 8 great patriarchs, 2 went to Lu Li's side. Lu Li now had 6 warriors that were close to the consummate realm. The force was terrifying. In the Hall of Patriarchs, Lu Li's force had become superior as well. There was a tacit understanding among the Grim Reaper's force. Lu Li's force had become superior. The other 9 forces didn't dare to provoke the Grim Reaper. That being said, the Grim Reaper's force was fair and just. Basically, the Grim Reaper's force prioritized the interests of the Grim Reaper. Even if the Grim Reaper's force wanted to take some benefits, it wouldn't go too far. Therefore, the other 9 forces didn't dare to provoke Lu Li. The other 9 forces were fighting fiercely. Lu Li's force, on the other hand, stayed out of the fight. It was as if the Grim Reaper's force had become the Hall of Judgment of the 12 Masters. Lu Li's status had become superior as well. He had become the uncrowned king of the Grim Reaper. Third Master. Chapter 35-38. The sudden addition of more than a dozen warriors that were infinitely close to the absolute completion of the Grim Reaper caught the attention of the other 11 Dominators. How many years had passed? The Grim Reaper already had so many powerful warriors. In a few decades, the number of warriors that were infinitely close to the absolute completion of the Grim Reaper would reach 40 or 50, which would be more powerful than many Dominators. The top 7 of the 12 Dominators were all at the absolute completion of the Grim Reaper. There were also some who were not among the 12. They were hidden from the world. The Grim Reaper was the weakest of the 12 Dominators. But now, the Grim Reaper was growing stronger and stronger. It was now among the top 10. If the Grim Reaper could continue to grow stronger and reach the absolute completion, it would be possible for it to be among the top 3 or even become the most powerful overlord. Of the 12 Dominators, the Grim Reaper was the weakest. Now, the Grim Reaper was growing stronger and stronger. It was already among the top 10. However, news of the Grim Reaper's infighting had also spread. Many large clans and forces laughed when they heard the news. The Grim Reaper had just risen, and they were already fighting each other? At this rate, the Grim Reaper would be doomed. But the news of the Grim Reaper's infighting had spread. It would be a joke if the original warriors of the Grim Reaper were killed and the new warriors that were infinitely close to the absolute completion of the Grim Reaper became the new warriors. The fact that the Grim Reaper didn't reach the absolute completion was a big problem. The Grim Reaper was not a single race. Without cohesion, it would be strange if there was no infighting among the various forces and races. Therefore, even though the Grim Reaper had more than a dozen powerful warriors, the other major forces didn't care. Of course, there were some who could see through the strategy of the 10 warriors and felt they were clever. If the situation could be controlled, then the Grim Reaper would be able to develop rapidly. It wouldn't be difficult for it to rise. But even if there were smart warriors who had guessed it, they wouldn't say anything, nor would they secretly stop the rise of the Grim Reaper. Behind the Grim Reaper was the son of the King of the East, and the Grim Reaper had Lu Li. Anyone who dared to act recklessly would face the wrath of Lu Li. The Gue race was strong, even stronger than the Gang race. The Gue race had been convinced by Lu Li. Would they dare to take the risk? Also, even if they could kill Lu Li, if the son of the King of the East came, then no major race could withstand the wrath of Little White. Development was the way to go. The major forces also began to recruit experts who were infinitely close to the Great Perfection Realm. In the previous war in the Chaotic Starfields, many of the major forces and clans had been destroyed, but many experts who were infinitely close to the Great Perfection Realm had survived. They were hiding in some small domains or dangerous secret territories. These experts had been killed by 1 or 2 of the 12 sovereigns, so they had a grudge against 1 or 2 of the 12 sovereigns. However, they had no grudge against the other sovereigns. These elites, who were infinitely close to the Great Perfection Realm, all wanted revenge. However, now that the Chaotic Starfields had been divided, they had no more land and no chance to rise again. They could either leave the Chaotic Sky Star area and slowly rise up in other star areas, hide in some secret lands, or seek refuge with the 12 Dominators and obtain a piece of land to develop slowly. The reason why the Grim Reaper was able to recruit so many experts was that many of them were martial artists from these clans. As long as they came over, the Grim Reaper would give them a realm and guarantee that the other 11 sovereigns wouldn't attack them. This was something that the 12 sovereigns had come to an agreement on. They could recruit and absorb all of them. In any case, it would be very, very difficult for these small races to rise to power. If they absorbed it separately, they would all become stronger. They had occupied such a large territory and would become stronger and stronger. They were not afraid of the revenge of these small races. The 12 sovereigns were all recruiting, and it was obvious that the Grim Reaper was the most successful. This was because the Grim Reaper had set a very good example. 1,000 gold to buy a horse's bones. All the experts who came were given a realm and were given the position of Grand Elder. Most importantly, some of the experts who had joined in the beginning had now become elders with real power. They had become the upper echelons of the Grim Reaper. This was something that could not be obtained by joining other forces in large clans. What did it mean to have real power? It meant that they could get a share of the Grim Reaper's benefits. It meant that they could make their clans rise. If they did not have real power, then these experts would only be hired thugs. They would only be worshipped. What was the point of that? They could only get a meager amount of resources every year. Their clans would never have the chance to rise again. Power represented benefits and hope. This was what many small races wanted the most. The Grim Reaper had already sent out many elders to search for these remaining experts in the various mystic realms. As time passed, the number of Grim Reaper's experts would increase, and the Grim Reaper would also become stronger. Some of the experts who had joined in the beginning had already been sent out. For example, the 7 major star regions needed experts who were infinitely close to great perfection to hold the fort. Currently, 7 Grand Elders had already been sent out. These Grand Elders would not always be there. They would be rotated every 3 years. This would prevent these Grand Elders from forming their own factions and rotating every 3 years. It would be very safe. These Grand Elders who were sent out had real power. They were in charge of all the affairs there. All the resources were allocated by them. This was equivalent to being the overlord of a region in the Grim Reaper. This was a very important position. If this Grand Elder did well there, his position would be stable, and he would be able to lead the clan to rise. Currently, the 10 giants basically did not manage the specific affairs. They had all distributed their power, but all the department heads had to answer to the 10 giants. Moreover, they were in charge separately and in turn. In this way, the centralization of power could be avoided, and the Grim Reaper would be in harmony. There would be no mistakes. Luli's life became more comfortable. From now on, he would occasionally manage the affairs of the Grim Reaper. He would not get involved unless it was something important. He spent most of his time cultivating and trying to reach the Saint King realm. He had reached the peak of the Great Emperor realm a long time ago, and was only one step away from reaching the Saint King realm. A new batch of elites came from the Middle King realm. The Lu Alliance was producing more powerful warriors as well. In the next 3 years, the Lu Alliance had more than a dozen Great Emperor realm warriors. One of them was a direct descendant of the Lu family who was very talented. He had been listed as a key candidate to be trained. This descendant belonged to Lu Li's 5th grandpa. Relatively speaking, this descendant was a branch. Since Lu Li had no offspring, those with the surname Lu were all direct descendants. This direct descendant was only in his 80s, but he had reached the quasi-emperor realm. It was only a matter of time before he reached the Great Emperor realm. Among Lu Li's wives and concubines, Yin Qingxi and Xiang Linglong were at the highest realms. They were both at the later stage of the Great Emperor realm, and there was hope for them to reach the Saint King realm. There was another talented warrior, and that was Enlure. She had reached the Great Emperor realm. Her talent was amazing. Enlure had become another golden flower of the Grim Reaper. Many young masters were pursuing her. She was Lu Li's apprentice, young, beautiful, and talented. She had a special spiritual body. With all kinds of conditions, Enlure had many suitors. Many young masters from the other 11 major families came to propose marriage. Enlure was annoyed. She stated 2 conditions. If the 2 conditions could be met, she would consider marrying him. First, he could not be older than 5,000 years, and second, he could surpass his master in strength and achievements. As soon as the news was out, all the young masters gave up. There was only one person in the 8 galaxies who could meet the 2 conditions, and that was Lu Li. Chapter 35-39. Time flew by in the blink of an eye. In the blink of an eye, 30 years had passed. The Grim Reaper didn't collapse as many forces had imagined. Instead, it grew stronger. The Grim Reaper had been fighting for 30 years. It seemed that something big could happen at any time. However, nothing happened. Instead, the number of their most powerful warriors was increasing. The assassination business in the 7 galaxies was in full swing, and their prestige was growing day by day. The Grim Reaper had 63 warriors that were infinitely close to the perfect realm. Apart from the 10 masters, there were 53 that had joined the Grim Reaper. The Grim Reaper was a powerful force, far more powerful than the several masters. The Grim Reaper ranked 8th. The Grim Reaper only had 10 warriors that were infinitely close to the perfect realm. Yet, they could control 5 times their number. It was a miracle. By now, the other masters had realized that the internal strife of the Grim Reaper was self-directed and staged by the 10 masters. Many great patriarchs of the Grim Reaper understood as well. The problem was that the plan was in place. After so many years of planning and operation, the factions had taken shape. The factions had been fighting for so many years, and the grudges were deep. Every powerful warrior was labeled with a faction, which could not be changed because the 10 masters wouldn't want it. The 10 masters had agreed that they could not poach disciples, and the great patriarchs who joined them could not change factions either. Luli's faction was growing stronger. In the end, Luli stopped taking in disciples because he was too powerful for others to play with, which would go against the original intention. Essentially, the purpose was to suppress the newly joined warriors. If all of them were on Luli's side, then Luli would not be able to control them, and the situation would worsen. This was something that Luli had suggested and taken the initiative to do. Out of the 53 utmost powerful beings, he had 10 of them under him. If he were to take them in, he would definitely have at least 20 of them. Right now, the ratio of the powerful beings on his side had decreased. The other masters admired Luli's selflessness. Luli's high status was acknowledged by the other masters. On the surface, the 10 masters were like fire and water, but on the inside, they were united. There was nothing they could do if they were not united. They had too many powerful warriors. The 10 masters only had 10 masters. If they were not united, how could they suppress the more than 50 powerful warriors? The division of factions was a perfect solution. The 10 masters would keep each other in check, monitor, and suppress each other. In this way, the balance would not be broken. Therefore, in the past 30 years, although it seemed like the major factions were as incompatible as fire and water, nothing major actually happened. On the contrary, under the reward and punishment system, the Grim Reaper started a healthy competition, and the Grim Reaper was thriving. With a large amount of territory, a large amount of resources, and the constant training of assassinations in the 7 major star regions, the experts of the Grim Reaper continued to increase. There were over 100 Saint Emperors, and it was estimated that there would be a few experts who were infinitely close to great perfection breaking through within 100 years. The only pity was that the Grim Reaper had yet to reach the great perfection stage, and it felt like it was still a long way off. The path to the consummate level was simply too difficult. Some of the big shots of the Grim Reaper, such as the Feather Emperor, the Winged Emperor, and the U-Emperor had a 100% chance of dying. On the other hand, some powerhouses who were infinitely close to the great perfection realm that joined later seemed to have a slight chance. Of course, it was only a possibility, and no one could say for sure. If a great perfection appeared among the experts who joined the Alliance later on, then the structure of the Grim Reaper would definitely change. Of course, the 10 giants wouldn't object to this change. It was a good thing to have a great perfection in the Grim Reaper. The 10 giants would be willing to be below the great perfection realm and let the great perfection lead them to greater heights. Lu Meng had been developing well recently. There were 5 more great Emperor Realm warriors, and Ling Long and Yin Xingxi had reached the peak of the great Emperor Realm. It would only be 20 or 30 years before they could reach the Saint Emperor Realm. Lu Meng went to the Noon Universe to pick up 2 groups of elites, but he also sent back 10,000 warriors. The 10,000 warriors were sent back mainly because they didn't have much potential. It would be a waste of resources to train them. They had been here for a long time, and their realms and knowledge had been improved. They could go back in glory. Those warriors were not allowed to have fun. All of them had to serve for a period of time. If they wanted to, they could serve for as long as they wanted. Lu Meng would serve with Saint Emperor Xiaoyao. His main job was to train young warriors and enhance the overall strength of the Middle King world. The Middle King world was weak, but Lu Li had always believed that the Middle King world was where his foundation was. It was his homeland, his compatriots. Below the Middle King world were the Second Heaven and many other universes, including the divinity and countless mortal worlds. Therefore, as long as the Middle King world was managed well, it could bring new forces to the Lu Alliance. With the existence of the Middle King world, the Lu Alliance would have a foundation, and the Lu Alliance could receive constant reinforcements. In the end, the Lu Alliance could grow stronger and stand at the top of the chaotic star region. The Lu Alliance had many resources. Some of the resources could be given to the Middle King world. The overall strength of the Middle King world could be enhanced. When the Middle King world was strong, the Lu Alliance would be strong. When the Lu Alliance was strong, the Middle King world would be stronger. This was a virtuous cycle. Of course, there was one key factor. Lu Li could live on, and he could stay at the top position in the Grim Reaper. If Lu Li died, then the Lu Alliance would be doomed, and the Middle King world's development would come to a halt. Boom, boom, boom. In the Heavenly King's realm of Grim Reaper, there was a high platform that reached the clouds. The platform was made of cold iron. Looking from the distance, it looked like a huge mountain. The area within a 3,000-mile radius of the platform was heavily guarded. There were inhibition formations in an area with a radius of 300,000 miles. Average warriors could not sneak in. There were elites of the Grim Reaper waiting nearby. To get in was as difficult as climbing up to heaven. At this moment, the high platform was filled with the sound of thunder. Terrifying bolts of lightning struck down continuously. The entire high platform could no longer be seen, but one could vaguely make out the figure of a person inside. The lightning was so horrifying that nobody dared to stand within a 30-mile radius. 300 miles away stood a group of people, including Lu Renhuang, Yin Qingxi, and Xiang Linglong. There were over 100 of them. They were the higher-ups of the Lu Alliance. All of them were staring at the platform nervously. It was Lu Li standing on the platform. He was going through the heavens tribulation. After 30 years of cultivation, Lu Li finally felt he had reached the critical point. Without any hesitation, he rested for 2 days and came directly to the Heavenly King's realm. The platform was specially used by the Grim Reaper to go through heaven's tribulations. It was not an average one. It was built with a rare material that could weaken heaven's tribulations by 30%. Inside the platform, there were many powerful divine glyphs specially designed to withstand heaven's tribulations. There were also pellets and other treasures provided by the Grim Reaper. Any warrior that came to take the heaven's tribulation would have a higher chance of success. As a matter of fact, all the super forces and families had such facilities. Otherwise, how could the descendants of the major forces improve so fast? Even with the platform and the preparations, the higher-ups of the Lu Alliance were nervous. Should Lu Li fail the heaven's tribulation and be blasted to death, the Lu Alliance would fall apart at once. The Lu family would have to go back to a Middle King's realm to linger on. It was even possible that the Lu family would be wiped out because Lu Li had made so many enemies over the years. Ha 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 ha. An hour later, the last bolt of 9-colored lightning struck down, and a loud laugh came from the high platform. The higher-ups of the Lu Alliance were overjoyed. Lu Li had successfully passed the heaven's tribulation and reached the Saint's sovereign realm. Chapter 3540. Lu Li was strong. He had killed dozens of warriors that were close to the absolute realm, let alone Saint Emperors. Some said that he was the most powerful warrior below the absolute realm. There was something wrong with this. Lu Li's main attack power came from the super flames and the perishing liquid. Of course, this was also because he had a miraculous state of Dharma, which was one of his abilities. Every powerful warrior had their own unique abilities. Other warriors didn't have a state of Dharma, which was one of Lu Li's strengths. Lu Li was perfect in all aspects. The only thing he lacked was his realm. In the 8 galaxies, Saint Emperors were like dogs, let alone in the immortal region. Saint Emperor was the most basic realm. If one could not reach it, how could one be called a powerful warrior? The Lu Alliance had many talented disciples, and the future was bright. But the Lu Alliance didn't have a single Saint Emperor. The powerful warriors attached to Lu Li didn't count. Those were just factions, not the Lu Alliance itself. Now that Lu Li had made the breakthrough, the Lu Alliance had its first Saint Emperor. It didn't matter. What mattered was that Lu Li had made the breakthrough. His abilities must have improved, more or less. This was good news for the Lu Alliance. Also, Lu Li's breakthrough was significant. Lu Li's status would be more secure. When he was at the Emperor realm, he could already kill warriors that were close to the Absolute realm as if they were dogs. He could even fight against those at the Absolute realm. Now that he was a Saint Emperor, would he be able to fight against those at the Absolute realm? Lu Li didn't come down after the breakthrough. Instead, he sat on the dais to check the changes in his body, to see how much he had improved. The first thing he did was to check his body. It was 3 times stronger than before. He could rely on his physical strength to withstand a move that was close to the Absolute realm. His soul was improved as well by 3 or 4 times. Lu Li's life force had also been improved, which meant that his life had been extended. Normally, a Saint Emperor could live for more than 100,000 years. If nothing went wrong, a Saint Emperor could live for 200,000 or 300,000 years. Well, not bad. Lu Li checked himself and was satisfied. He was about to go down when he remembered something. He used psychic power to check the state of Dharma. This can cause his soul to tremble slightly. This was because he discovered that there seemed to be a change in the Dharma realm, and it was a very strange change. He looked inside himself, and then disappeared from his original spot in a flash, entering the Dharma realm. He stood in the Dharma realm and looked around with his eyes wide open. He sensed his surroundings and could feel a rhythm. It was as if the Dharma realm was breathing and emitted formless waves. It could be said that the last mutation had given the Dharma realm a skeleton and made it more stable. This time, Lu Li felt the Dharma realm had come to life. There was something similar to life flowing in the Dharma realm. Surges of miraculous Taoist rhythms were flowing in the Dharma realm. Lu Li felt he was back in his mother's placenta. He felt comfortable. This, Lu Li exclaimed. Over the years, he had read a lot about the Dharma realm and had gained a deeper understanding of it. The Dharma realm itself was just a small space created by experts. It was a kind of Sumeru space. There was still a difference between this kind of Sumeru space and a real world. It was impossible for the Dharma realm to become a real world. At most, it could be refined into a supreme treasure land. Many experts' Dharma realms were huge, even bigger than a small world. Inside the Dharma realm, there might be energy in heaven and earth, flowers, trees, and beasts. That being said, when Lu Li went in, he could feel that those spaces were different from a real world. Those were strange spaces, not real worlds. Those spaces were dead, not alive. Now, Lu Li sensed that his realm was coming to life. There was a trace of Taoist Tao and a mysterious energy. Lu Li could not tell what it was, nor could he sense it, but he could tell that the realm was changing, evolving, sharpening. Previously, the Dharma realm had been expanding as well, but that was only the space. Nothing else changed, but this was different. This was a sharp change, an evolution. Of course, this was Lu Li's subjective deduction and judgment. Lu Li wasn't sure if this was really the case. It was just a feeling he had. He stood in the Dharma realm and sensed it quietly. He stood there for 5 days. Then, Lu Li opened his eyes. There was a look of worry on his face. After sensing for 5 days, he could clearly feel that the Dharma realm was slowly changing. Although the changes were very, very slow, they were indeed constantly changing. But was it good or bad? The Dharma realm was the source of his strength. Without the Dharma realm, there would be no source of energy. Without the Dharma realm, he could not even use stealth skill or traceless path. Without the Dharma realm, he would not have the super flames or the liquid of devastation. If something were to happen to the Dharma realm, then his abilities would be greatly reduced. He might even become disabled. His Dharma realm had changed. He didn't know how to deal with it or who to ask. This had never happened in history. Even if he went Emperor of Feather, Emperor of Mo, or Emperor of Wings, he wouldn't be able to get any answers. If he could ask the clan leader of the gang race, that consummate realm warrior, or the king of the East region, he might be able to get some guidance. But the Dharma realm was his secret. How could he share it with others? Strictly speaking, the Dharma realm was not changing. The existence of the Dharma realm was not normal. How could a warrior at the Fifth Tribulation realm build a Dharma realm? Therefore, any change in the Dharma realm could be accepted by Luli, never mind. I don't care. Luli shook his head. He would monitor it more in the future. There was no need to keep an eye on it now. His body flashed out, and then he floated down the high platform, landing next to Lu Meng's martial artists. The higher-ups of the Lu Alliance congratulated Luli. Luli smiled and said, "Let's go. Let's go back to the Tianyuan city." Okay. The group of powerful warriors flew to the north in a formidable array. In less than an hour, they arrived at a big city. Then, they took the teleportation formation back to the Tianyuan city. As soon as Luli came back, many powerful warriors swarmed over to congratulate Luli. Luli had only reached the Saint King realm. But for Luli's faction, it was a joyous event. After a few days of excitement, Luli was ready to take a quiet rest. Lu Renhuang hurried in and asked with surprise, "Li Er, you have a master?" "Master?" Luli blinked in confusion and asked, "Why do you ask?" "There is news from the Middle King universe that a mysterious, powerful warrior has gone there. He said he is your master, and he is looking for you." Lu Renhuang took out a letter, read it, and said, "Right, he said his name is Emperor Ray." To protect the Middle King universe, Luli sent a master of formations from the god of death to build a messaging altar so that he could send a message in case of emergency. Luli came to his senses when he heard the name Emperor Ray. He remembered a dusty past. If it were not for Lu Renhuang, he would have forgotten about the endless ruins. Luli stood up and asked, "What else did he say?" Lu Renhuang explained. He didn't say much. He just said that Emperor Rui has something urgent to talk to you about. P.S. Updated early. This is the update on the 18th. Chapter 35-41. Going to the endless ruins was an accident. Back then, Lu Li, and Dong Yang went to destroy the altar in the Abyss of Demons. However, when the altar was activated, the explosion changed the direction of teleportation. Lu Li and Dong Yang were sent to the endless ruins by accident. Lu Ling and Xiang Ling Long were taken to the Holy Maiden sect. Lu Li had no other choice but to join the Heaven Emperor's sect. He wanted to save Lu Ling and Xiang Ling Long through the identity of the Heaven Emperor's sect. In the Heaven Emperor's sect, he acknowledged a master who treated him very well. There was also Lord Li. He still owed the Hu clan a favor. It had been many years since he left the endless divine ruins. He had always been occupied and had never thought of going back to take a look. Now, the Rui Emperor actually took the initiative to look for him. This surprised him greatly. How did the Rui Emperor know that he was in a Middle King realm? Why was the Rui Emperor looking for him? The endless ruins of gods was a realm that was stronger than the Middle King realms, but much weaker than the realms of the chaotic starfields. In the old days, Luli found that place to be powerful, but now it was nothing. It was just like any small universe in the chaotic universe. The most powerful warrior in the endless ruins of gods was only a Saint Emperor. Perhaps there were a few warriors who were infinitely close to the completion, but for the current Luli, they were too weak. Let's go back and take a look. Luli did not hesitate for long. After all, the Grim Reaper had nothing else to do. It would only take him a few years to go back to the Middle King universe or even the endless ruins of gods. Now that the Grim Reaper's various systems were perfected and mutually restricted each other, there wouldn't be any problems with him leaving. His faction had nurtured 2 experts. When he was not around, these 2 experts would be in charge of the affairs of his faction. He talked to Lu Renhuang for a while, and then went to find Lu Ling and Xiang Ling Long. Lu Ling and Xiang Ling Long happened to be together with by Xia Shuang and an Lure. Luli went straight to the point. "Do you remember the endless ruins?" "Endless God ruins." Lu Ling and Xiang Ling Long looked at each other. Both of them were recalling the past. Their expressions were a bit unnatural. To them, the Endless God ruins was not a good memory. Back then, the two of them had almost been forced to marry someone else and had tried to kill themselves many times. Their lives had been very bitter. Lu Ling asked, Lu Li, why did you bring this up? I have a master in the Heavenly Emperor's sect. Do you guys remember him? Rue Emperor. Lu Li explained. He came to the Central King universe, saying that he has something urgent to talk to me about. Do you want to go back to the Central King universe with me? Rue Emperor? Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong were taken aback. They didn't expect that Emperor Rue had found a Middle King realm. Lu Ling thought about it and said, I will not go back to the Middle King universe. I will keep an eye on things while you're not here. Linglong can go back and have some fun. If we go back to the Endless Ruins, Lu Li, help me destroy the Holy Lady sect. Yes, destroy the Saintess sect. Xiang Linglong also said coldly, that sect is full of psychopathic lunatics. Many sisters have been harmed by the Holy Goddess sect. Lu Li, I will go with you. I'm going too. Master, can I go? Bai Xiaoshuang and Enlure said at the same time. Bai Xiaoshuang was a restless person, and Enlure just wanted to broaden her horizons. Going out with Lu Li would be a nice trip. It had been a long time since she went out with Lu Li. Her pretty eyes were filled with longing. Okay, let's go. Lu Li could see the longing in the eyes of Bai Xiaoshuang and Enlure. Bai Xiaoshuang had no future in cultivation. Linglong, for example, was at the peak of the Great Emperor realm. She would need time to make a breakthrough. Enlure had just reached the Great Emperor realm. She could cultivate on the way, so there was no hurry. Lu Ling said, Lu Li, take Xia and Ma with you. Shuang and Lu will go. It will be safer with two powerful warriors. Xia was Xia Zhongtian, and Ma Shangxing was Ma Shangxing. Both of them were very close to the consummate realm. They were the first two to go to Lu Li's side, and they were very loyal. Lu Li thought it made sense. Emperor Rue would not come for no reason. Something must have happened to the Heaven Emperor sect. Lu Li was confident that he could deal with it by himself. That being said, it was safer for him to take two powerful warriors with him since he had to take Linglong, Bai Xiaoshuang, and Enlure with him. Lu Li asked Lu Ling to send a message. Soon, the two powerful warriors came. Lu Li asked them to go with him for a couple of years to run some errands. The two supreme experts didn't say anything and immediately agreed. They went back to make arrangements. Lu Li went to Emperor Mo, Emperor Yu, Emperor Yi, and Emperor Li to make arrangements. It was fine for Lu Li to go out for a year or two. Emperor Mo was concerned about Lu Li's safety and asked Lu Li to take some warriors close to the consummate realm with him. Emperor Mo would not feel safe with just Xia and Ma. Lu Li said with a smile, if it is a consummate realm warrior, what is the point of me taking more powerful warriors? If it is not a consummate realm warrior, what does it matter if I take more powerful warriors or not? Emperor Mo and the others could not refute Lu Li's words. Emperor Li and the others said nothing. They only told Lu Li to be careful and not to worry about the Reaper. As long as nothing happened to Lu Li, everything else would be fine. Now, Lu Li had become the real soul, the representative of the Reaper. If something happened to Lu Li, then the Reaper would be doomed. If nothing happened to Lu Li, then everything else could be taken care of. With everything settled, Lu Li set off quietly. He did not spread the news. Only some higher-ups under his command knew about it. They only knew that he was going out for a year or two, but not where. Lu Li left on a battleship with two warriors close to the consummate realm. More than a dozen Reaper aces, Xiang Linglong, Bai Xiaoshuang, and Enlure. Lu Li took the fastest battleship in the Reaper. It would take him half a year to get back to the Middle King realm. Bai Xiaoshuang and Enlure were cheerful and could not calm down. Lu Li and Xiang Linglong were in closed-door cultivation. Xiang Linglong had always been indifferent, while Lu Li had just reached the Saint King realm and needed time to stabilize his realm. Can I get closer to the consummate realm? Lu Li thought of something. He felt he had spent a lot of effort to reach the Saint King realm. He had been cultivating in the secret realms of the Reaper for 30 years, and he even used treasures from the Reaper to make the breakthrough. He felt that it would be impossible to break through to the Great Perfection realm without tens of thousands of years. Then, it would be the Great Perfection Realm, and that was even more uncertain. Emperor Li and Emperor Mo were hopeless, not to mention Lu Li. How can I improve my abilities? Lu Li was thinking about something. Flames and divine liquid of destruction would be used less and less. Of course, he could go to the Eye of Destruction and the Tomb of Flame Emperor again. After all, they were external forces. If he could have his own strength, Lu Li would not neglect the essentials. I don't have much divine liquid of destruction left. I will go to the Eye of Destruction after this is over. Lu Li made up his mind. He was not too worried. Because there were no enemies at the moment, there was no imminent pressure. He could take his time to find a way to increase his abilities. If worst came to worst, he could maintain his current abilities. Many warriors spent tens of thousands of years and only reached the Saint King realm. Lu Li should be content. Only when he was content could he be happy. Chapter 3542. Half a year later, the battleship arrived at the Central King region. Once they entered the Central King region, they boarded the battleship and flew toward the Liberty City. The Liberty City was a newly built city at the Northern Plains. It was built near the battlefield to commemorate the tens of thousands of warriors who sacrificed their lives to fight against the abyss of demons. The Liberty City was large, but not luxurious. It was built in a simple and crude manner. But the city walls were tall, and the architectural style was grand, which suited the northern style. Before the battlefield arrived at the Liberty City, many warriors had gathered here. There must be millions of disciples. All the civilians in the city came out to welcome Lu Li. Whoosh! Soon, the battlefield arrived and stopped in front of the Liberty City. Lu Li flew out with a group of powerful warriors and Xiang Linglong. Many civilians dropped to their knees at once. They shouted, "Greetings, Emperor Lu! Welcome home, Emperor Lu!" Millions of warriors shouted at the same time. It was a magnificent scene. More importantly, in the eyes and faces of the civilians, there was love and fanaticism from the bottom of their hearts. It was as if Lu Li was their god. One order from Lu Li, and the millions of warriors felt they would die for him. "Please rise." Lu Li put on a gentle smile. He felt he had returned to his homeland, as if he had met his family. Lu Li greeted the civilians with Xiang Linglong and the others. Finally, they entered the Liberty Castle, surrounded by Saint Emperor Xiaoyao and a group of great emperors. After some small talk with Saint Emperor Xiaoyao and the great emperors, Lu Li asked the great emperor to take Xiang Linglong by Xiaoshuang and allure to settle down. Then, Lu Li introduced Xia and Ma to Saint Emperor Xiaoyao. Saint Emperor Xiaoyao and the others sensed Xia and Ma's abilities. They were shocked. The two were unfathomable. They felt they could crush everyone into dust with a flip of their hands. After a while, Lu Li got down to business. He asked, "Where is Emperor Rui? Where is he?" Lu Li could sense where Emperor Rui was, but he still asked. Saint Emperor Xiaoyao took Lu Li to a nearby manor. Lu Li did not go with Xia and Ma. Instead, he went with Saint Emperor Xiaoyao. Emperor Rui had sensed it and was waiting outside a castle. Lu Li hurried to Emperor Rui. He was about to drop to one knee when he saw Emperor Rui. "Master, you can't." Before Lu Li could kneel, Emperor Rui helped him up. Emperor Rui said with a smile, "Back then, you were just passing by the endless ruins by chance. You didn't stay there for long, and I didn't teach you anything. Moreover, you've already broken through to the Saint Emperor realm, while I'm still at the Emperor realm. I don't deserve to be your master." "How is this possible?" With a straight face, Lu Li insisted on dropping to his knees. He bowed to the Rui Emperor with respect and said, "A teacher for a day, a father for life. You have helped me a lot in the endless ruins of divinity. Without you, I would have been dead. If you say so, I will be too ashamed to live." Back then, your disciple left without saying goodbye, which was already a great disrespect. After so many years of being tied up with trifling matters, not being able to go back to visit Master is a great sin. "Please forgive me, Master." "Good, good." Emperor Rui exclaimed with joy. "Lu Li, it is enough that you have the intention. I am happy. In fact, We all know about your departure. Do you still remember Ancestor Swan? Actually, Ancestor Swan is the ancestor of Heavenly Emperor's sect. Ah, Luli was shocked. That day, he could escape and return to the Central King universe because of Ancestor Swan's secret guidance. He didn't know that Ancestor Swan was the ancestor of Heavenly Emperor's sect. After a while, he asked, "Why did Ancestor Swan do this?" Ancestor Swan said that you are not from Heavenly Emperor's sect. Emperor Rue said with a smile. He said that you can keep your body, but not your heart. Instead of trapping you in this pool of stagnant water in the endless ruins of divinity, it is better to let you, a trapped dragon, ascend to the sky. Ancestor Swan is really a god, Luli exclaimed. In order to send him away, Ancestor Swan spent a lot of effort and passed on a secret skill of the soul. Ancestor Swan was kind to Luli. Luli nodded and said, "Is Ancestor Swan doing well? How is Lordly? Right? Master, you have come all the way to the Central King universe. Is there something important?" Ancestor Swan has passed away. Emperor Rue looked sorrowful. He sighed and said, "Something big happened at the endless ruins of divinity. Powerful enemies invaded. Now, the endless ruins of divinity has fallen. Ancestor Swan died to defend against the enemies. Before he died, he sent me out and asked me to ask you for help." Luli was stunned again. How did Ancestor Swan know his current strength? How did he know he was still alive? Could Ancestor Swan have divination skills like Ancestor Fufu? Luli's expressions grew solemn as he asked, "Which race attacked you? How are their strengths? How are the casualties of Heavenly Emperor's sect?" "We have to start from 3 years ago." Emperor Rue told Luli about the changes in the endless ruins of divinity. It took him more than 2 hours to finish. Luli nodded slightly. He basically understood. It was a universe nearby that attacked the endless ruins of divinity. They contacted 2 major races nearby to attack together. The 3 races all held grudges against the endless ruins of divinity. The 3 races combined had many powerful warriors. They conquered the endless ruins of divinity easily. As a matter of fact, it was because the mountain behind the endless ruins of divinity had fallen. The endless ruins of divinity was close to the Tianyu Star region. Behind the endless ruins of divinity was a major race of the Tianyu Star region. Several years ago, that race suffered a heavy blow. Their territory was almost divided up. Naturally, the endless ruins of divinity was not spared. Do the 3 races have any backers in the Tianyu Star region? The 3 races were nothing to Luli. There were only about 10 warriors that were infinitely close to the perfect completion. He could wipe them out with one hand. Since the endless ruins of divinity had backers in the Tianyu Star region, Luli suspected that the 3 races did as well. Yes, Emperor Rue said with certainty. The 3 races have one backer. The endless ruins of divinity and the nearby universes also have one backer. Their backer seems to be a major race in the Tianyu Star region. It is called the Rhinoceros race, a famous race in the Tianyu Star region. Rhinoceros race? Luli nodded and asked, "Does this race have any perfect completion? If there isn't a great perfection deity, this matter will be very easy to handle." Perfect completion? Emperor Rue was surprised. This was too far away for him. He frowned and said, "I don't know. I have never been to the Tianyu Star region, and the Swan Ancestor did not tell us." "Well, there is no hurry," Luli said to Saint Emperor Xiaoyao. "Send a message to the God of Death for me. Ask him to send me a copy of the situation of the Rhinoceros race." The God of Death had branches in the 7 galaxies, and he was well aware of the situation there. If Luli went to ask, he would get a message soon. Luli said to Emperor Rue, "Master, don't be hasty. Wait for a few days. When I have a better understanding of the situation, I will go to the endless ruins of divinity with you. As long as the Rhinoceros race does not have any perfect completion, even if the Rhinoceros race wants to interfere, I can handle it for you." The Rue Emperor was surprised to see Luli speaking so casually. Luli was just a Saint Emperor. How could he be so arrogant? Not only was he going to help them defeat the 3 races, He was going to help them deal with the rhinoceros race. Chapter 35:43. Luli did not explain. Instead, he told the Rue Emperor to take it easy. A few more days wouldn't make a difference. The endless ruins of gods had fallen. Nothing would happen in a couple of days. The Celestial Emperor's sect was broken up. The Swan Ancestor and another progenitor warrior died in battle. So did the master of the Celestial Emperor's sect. Lord Li and a group of elites of the Celestial Emperor's sect were the only ones left, struggling at death's door. The Holy Lady sect had fallen as well. That being said, the Holy Lady sect only put up a bit of resistance. Then, sensing that the general trend could not be defied, they surrendered. Many other sects fought with the Celestial Emperor's sect, and many were wiped out. The entire endless ruins of gods was occupied. Almost all the resistors were killed. Billions of lives in the endless ruins of gods were crying under the hooves of the three races. That day, Saint Emperor Xiaoyao held a banquet. Xia and Ma were present. Lu Li's wife, Xiang Linglong, by Xia Shuang, and Enlure were there as well. Then there were some family patriarchs from the Middle King worlds. Of course, those family patriarchs were not powerful enough. They had to sit at the end of the table. Xia and Ma surprised the Rue Emperor. He felt the two were unfathomable, similar to the realm of the Swan Ancestor. In fact, Xia felt the two were stronger than the Swan Ancestor. More importantly, Xia and Ma were very respectful to Lu Li, so much so that they were like Lu Li's followers, the kind that worshipped Lu Li. Lu Li didn't explain. He just kept on toasting, saying master and master again and again. Saint Emperor Xiaoyao, Xia, and Ma were all respectful to Lu Li. The three powerful warriors had lowered their attitude and treated him with respect, which made the Rue Emperor flustered. The Rue Emperor had made some progress. He was at the later stage of the Emperor realm. Even Xiang Linglong was more powerful than him, let alone the powerful warriors. Back in the endless ruins of gods, Xiang Linglong was very weak. Lu Li, during the second half of the banquet, the Rue Emperor could not help but ask, "I heard from Lord Xiaoyao that you are not at the Middle King worlds. Where do you live? Did he establish his own sect? Or is he working for a sect?" Lu Li found it funny. The Rue Emperor wanted to know why Xia and Ma treated him this way, but he was too shy to ask directly for fear of offending them. Lu Li did not hide anything. He said with a smile, "Master, have you heard of the chaotic star region?" "Yes, I know, one of the 8 major galaxies." The Rue Emperor nodded and said, "Like the Sky Universe galaxy, it doesn't seem to be particularly far from here, right? Nearby are the Infinite Region, the Heavenly Dipper Starfield, and the Chaotic Starfield. Star Region is the star region of Star Region." Lu Li explained, "There are 12 forces in the Chaotic Star Region. They're called the 12 Masters. They're the 12 most powerful forces in the Chaotic Star Region." Star Region, Emperor Li said. "We are. That's why we arrived half a year late when you sent a message, because the Grim Reaper is a little far away." We? The Rue Emperor had never been to the Sky Universe Starfield, so he knew nothing about the 8 major starfields. However, since it was one of the 12 major forces in the Chaotic Starfield, it must be super powerful. But he was even more confused. If Lu Li, Shirlai, and Old Ma were from the same force, then why were they so respectful to Lu Li? Lu Li, a Saint Emperor who had just reached the realm, was not a big deal. He paused for a while and looked at Old Xia and Old Ma. He asked, "Sir Xia and Sir Ma have unfathomable powers. They should be top powerhouses in the Grim Reaper, right?" "Yes," Lu Li said with a smile. "Shirlai and Ma are 2 of the great patriarchs of the Grim Reaper. They're the most powerful forces of the Grim Reaper." "My lord, you're too kind with your praise. We don't deserve it." Shirlai and Old Ma hurriedly stood up and bowed. They looked terrified. Emperor Rue was even more surprised. He asked, "What about Lu Li? What is your position in the God of Death?" He. Lu Li smiled, but said nothing. Shirlai said, "Emperor Rue, Lord Rue is one of the 10 leaders of the Grim Reaper and one of the key figures. Basically, he is the boss of the Grim Reaper." Smack! The goblet in Emperor Rue's hand fell down and broke into pieces. His mouth was wide open, and he couldn't believe his eyes. He had some guesses. He thought Lu Li was the holy son of the Grim Reaper, or the apprentice or son-in-law of some big shot. That was why Shirley and Old Ma were so polite to him. He didn't know that Lu Li was one of the 10 leaders of the Grim Reaper. He was more like the boss, one of the 12 masters of the Chaotic Star region. Wasn't that one of the 12 most powerful figures in the Chaotic Star region? Naturally, Emperor Rue was frightened. How could his apprentice be so fierce? Nonsense. Lu Li glared at Shirley and said, "The Grim Reaper doesn't have a boss. The 10 leaders are all on the same level. If you dare to gossip again, I will not forgive you." Ha ha ha. Shirley scratched his head in embarrassment and drank a goblet of wine as punishment. Lu Li was the boss of the Grim Reaper. It was a well-known fact among the Grim Reaper. Even the other 9 leaders had tacitly accepted it. Lu Li was the most powerful in terms of strength, prestige, and the forces under his command. Even the Grim Reaper would tremble when Lu Li stomped his feet. Emperor Rue came back to his senses after a moment of absent-mindedness. Ignoring the goblet on the ground, he asked again, "Lu Li, you're a leader of the Grim Reaper? Didn't you just reach the Saint Emperor? How? Ha ha ha." Shirley and Old Ma looked at each other and laughed. This time, Old Ma said, "Emperor Ray, don't be fooled by him. Lu Huang's strength has nothing to do with his realm. When he was at the Great Emperor realm, he already killed dozens of warriors of my level. He once defeated a super race that had 2 warriors of the consummate level. Lu Huang is well known in the 8 galaxies. Basically, no major race dares to mess with him. Lu Huang should be the most powerful warrior below the consummate level. There's a saying in the 8 galaxies, it is better to offend the Grim Reaper. In addition to Emperor Rue, even Saint Emperor Xiaoyao was taken aback. Saint Emperor Xiaoyao knew that Lu Li was strong, but he did not expect it to be this strong. As for the family patriarchs at the Central King universe, they were dumbfounded. Had Lu Li reached such a high level? This is getting out of hand. Old Ma, where did you hear this rumor? Lu Li scolded with a smile. Unlure stood up and said, "Master, this is not a rumor. I have heard it many times. It has spread across the chaotic universe." Master, you are impressive." "Master?" Emperor Rue blinked in confusion. When Lu Li introduced her, he only said that she was an lure. Emperor Rue thought she was one of Lu Li's wives. Little did he know that she was Lu Li's apprentice. Lu Li did this on purpose to protect Emperor Rue's pride. Unlure was too young. She had reached the Great Emperor realm at this age. She was so talented that she could reach the Saint Emperor realm in another 100 years. How could Emperor Rue endure this? Well, Lu Li smiled embarrassedly and said, "Lure, don't be naughty. Go and greet your grandmaster." "Master, this is my apprentice. She is not good enough. That is why I didn't introduce her. P.S. I was so tired yesterday that I fell asleep on the bed and forgot to update. When I woke up, my QQ was flooded with messages. I realized I didn't update. Sorry. Chapter 3544. 5 days later, the god of death sent a message that the information about the rhinoceros race had arrived. The god of death had a branch at the Heaven Universe continent. After decades of preparation, the businesses there were mature, and the god of death had established himself. The rhinoceros race was a major race in the Heaven Universe galaxy. Naturally, the god of death would collect information about them, and a complete one at that. Average warriors and patriarchs would not have access to the information. But if Lu Li needed it, he had the right to access all the information. Lu Li browsed through the information and felt a headache coming on. The rhinoceros race was one of the top 10 races in the Heaven Universe galaxy and the 9th. The rhinoceros race had a clan leader who was at the consummate level. That was what troubled Lu Li as well. If the rhinoceros race did not have a consummate level warrior, he could suppress them easily given his reputation. The rhinoceros race wouldn't even dare to say a word when he wiped out the 3 major races. The consummate level warrior was not a big deal. The rhinoceros race was known for being simple-minded and short-tempered. If the rhinoceros race's race was wiped out, Luli believed that the rhinoceros race would take action. By then, he would have to face another major race, and the branch of the god of death might be attacked by the rhinoceros race as well. He owed favors to Emperor Rui, Lord Li, and the Hu family. Back then, the Hu family sacrificed a progenitor warrior to help him. The Hu family was in a miserable state. They were not wiped out, but they were hiding in a secret realm with the Heaven Emperor's sect, struggling at death's door. Therefore, he must go to the endless ruins. Even if there was a consummate level warrior here, he must go. He thought about it and began to communicate with the leader of the god of death through the communication altar. After all, this was his personal matter and it would affect the god of death. Therefore, he must communicate with the other leaders of the god of death first. After several days of communication and discussion, Luli decided that the great patriarch of the god of death in the Heaven Universe galaxy, who was close to the consummate level, would communicate with the rhinoceros race. He wanted to see if the rhinoceros race could order the major races to retreat. If not, they could offer some terms to buy the universe. It was better not to fight if possible. The death god was currently in a period of rapid expansion. This battle would definitely affect the death god's interests in the Tianyu star field, and even their headquarters might be affected. It was definitely not worth it to affect the interests of the Grim Reaper for a race that was not very important. The Sky Universe Star region was too far away, and there were paragons there. If they fought there, the death god wouldn't be able to obtain any benefits. Instead, unpredictable dangers and unforeseen changes would appear. Luli told Emperor Rui to be patient. As for the Grim Reaper, Sovereign of Wings was communicating with him remotely. The Grand Elder also went to meet with the Elder of the Rhino Ape tribe. He estimated that there would be a result in a month at most. The Rui Emperor was extremely anxious. He had been out for a long time. Who knew if there would be any unforeseen events? What if all the experts and disciples of the Heavenly Emperor sect were already dead by the time he arrived? He knew that this was not a small matter. Luli was not alone. He had to be responsible for super force. In particular, Luli mentioned that the rhinoceros ape race had a warrior at the consummate level, which was above the ancestor of the swan. Emperor Rui was not sure, but he knew this was not a trivial matter and he could not act recklessly. Bai Shashuang went out with an lure. One of them was Luli's wife and the other was Luli's apprentice. To all the major families in the Central King universe, they were the queen and princess. The major families were nervous. Many family patriarchs went with them in person to protect them. Even though they were in a Central King universe, Luli was still worried. He asked Ma to come back in a month, and they could go anywhere they wanted. Both Enlure and Bai Shashuang had stayed at the chilly Winterland for a long time. Enlure was born at the chilly Winterland, so they were teleported there. Luli was not in a hurry, since there was still a month to go. He just told them that he would send them a message in a month, and that if they were to leave, they must come back at once. Time moved on. For Luli and Emperor Rui, 1 month seemed to be an eternity. Finally, after 40 days, Luli received a message, but it was bad news. The Rhino Ape race refused. They would not yield an inch of land and warned the Grim Reaper to mind his own business. Otherwise, the Rhino Ape race would not let it go. The Grim Reaper sent a message as well. A patriarch of the Rhino Ape race was assassinated, and the Rhino Ape race suspected that it was the Grim Reaper. As a matter of fact, it was not the Grim Reaper. The Rhino Ape race was unhappy with the Grim Reaper, and they almost smashed one of his halls. This time, the patriarch of the Rhino Ape race asked them to leave before they could discuss terms. He sounded determined, leaving no room for negotiation. Luli snorted. Back in the days, he could subdue the Guam race. How could the Rhino Ape race be so overbearing when they only had one warrior at the consummate realm? Did they really think he was good-tempered? Luli thought for 2 hours and sent a message back to the Grim Reaper. After many rounds of discussion, Luli made up his mind. He must go to the endless ruins. If the Rhino Ape race wanted to fight, then he would play with them. Of course, this time, it was not the Grim Reaper playing with the Rhino Ape race, but Luli. Lu Li would go to the endless ruins of gods and destroy the three major races. If the rhinoceros apes wanted to fight, then the god of death would issue a notice. Lu Li would quit the god of death and form a new organization that would declare war on the rhinoceros apes. This organization was fake, and so was Lu Li's quitting. Without Lu Li, the Grim Reaper could not become one of the 12 masters. The Guam race would come for revenge soon. By then, the Grim Reaper would communicate with the Gang race and tell Lu Li the truth. After Lu Li destroyed the Rhino Ape race, he would rejoin the Grim Reaper. This was Lu Li's personal matter. He didn't want to bring trouble to the Grim Reaper, which would be unfair. If he could subdue the Rhino Ape race, then he could come back at any time. If he died, then the Grim Reaper wouldn't be implicated. Of course, there was a problem. Would the 9 powerful warriors of the God of Death really banish Lu Li and divide up his territory and his warriors? After all, Lu Li was the dominant force now. The other leaders might have the same idea and turn the show into reality. Lu Li had thought about it. He didn't think it was possible. First of all, the Grim Reaper needed him and Lu Xiaobai behind him. Secondly, the Grim Reaper wouldn't dare to do this. If Lu Li didn't die and the Grim Reaper did this, then the Grim Reaper would suffer Lu Li's wrath. Without a consummate warrior, the Grim Reaper wouldn't be able to survive Lu Li's attack. Therefore, Lu Li didn't have to worry about the Grim Reaper. He could fight at will and beat the Rhino Ape race to their knees. In this way, Lu Li could build his reputation again and make the Grim Reaper more stable. Of course, if he could avoid going to war with the Rhino Ape race, he wouldn't. After all, there was a consummate warrior. That was an uncertain factor. On the off chance that the Grim Reaper could see through his traceless Tao, Lu Li would suffer a miserable death. Bai Xiaoshuang and Enlure came back. Lu Li made a decision. He asked Xia and Ma to take Ling Long, Enlure, and Bai Xiaoshuang back while he went to the endless ruins with the Rue Emperor alone. His original plan was to take the 3 of them, Xia and Ma, to the endless ruins. Since the Rhino Ape race might get involved, then it wouldn't be appropriate for them to go. Lu Li would have to take care of them. Ling Long, Bai Xiaoshuang, and Enlure wanted to go, but Lu Li was determined. The 3 of them didn't dare to say anything else. They went back with Xia and Ma. Between Shirlai and Ma, one of them wanted to go with Lu Li, but Lu Li insisted that they go back. 3 days later, the 2 battleships left the universe of Noon and flew toward the chaotic star region and the endless ruins respectively. Chapter 35-45. Lu Li didn't bring Shirlai and Old Ma with him. He only brought 3 of his trump cards. These 3 were top-level assassins and scouts. Lu Li needed these 3 Grim Reapers to help him gather information. Otherwise, he wouldn't have brought them along. They entered through the tunnel that Lu Li came out from last time, which was connected to the Hell region. The Hell region had a secret tunnel connecting to the endless ruins. Last time, Swan Master gave Lu Li directions to enter the endless ruins through that tunnel and took away Lu Ling and Xiang Ling Long. The Hell region was a dangerous place. Lu Li had suffered a lot here. Now it was nothing for him. He could walk on flat ground. The 5 of them entered the endless ruins. Lu Li went into stealth mode and put Emperor Rue and the others into his interspatial artifact. Then, he snuck toward a small city. That city had an important secret branch of the Celestial Emperor's sect. Lu Li needed to know more about the endless ruins. After 3.5 days, Lu Li arrived at the city and found a manor that Emperor Rue mentioned. He went in directly. It seemed to be an average manor with a small family living in it. There were maids, servants, children, and the elderly. It did not look like a secret branch. Lu Li checked and snuck into a castle. Inside the castle, he sensed some powerful energy. Warriors of the Celestial Emperor's sect must be hiding here. He came to the castle and showed himself. A secret guard came out at once. He stared at Lu Li and asked, "Who are you?" Lu Li hid his energy so that the secret guard could not tell. He only felt Lu Li was dangerous. The secret guard crushed a jade talisman in his hand. The seal in the castle was opened. 3 powerful warriors rushed out. 2 were at the Great Emperor realm, and 1 was at the Quasi-Emperor realm. They surrounded Lu Li. "Who are you? One of the great Emperor Realm warriors looked at Lu Li in confusion. He felt he had seen Lu Li before, but he could not remember. Lu Li smiled and said, "Emperor Lu, it has been a while." "You?" The great Emperor Realm warrior was surprised. Then he remembered and said, "Aren't you the apprentice of Emperor Rui? Your name is Lu Li? How come you are still alive?" After Lu Li was imprisoned in the Hell region, there had been no news for years. Neither did the higher-ups of the Celestial Emperor sect. All the disciples of the Celestial Emperor sect thought Lu Li was dead. How could he not be shocked when Lu Li suddenly appeared outside the castle? Lu Li? The other warrior of the great Emperor Realm and the Emperor Quasi-Emperor were taken aback. Back in the days, Lu Li made quite a stir. They had never met Lu Li, but they had heard about him. Lu Li smiled. His interspatial ring glowed as Emperor Rui and the 3 Grim Reapers were released. When the Rui Emperor and the others came out, Emperor Lu was shocked. He was just about to make a move when he saw that it was the Rui Emperor. Emperor Lu exclaimed, "Emperor Rui, you are still alive? We thought you had fallen long ago." Emperor Rui was sent by the Swan Ancestor to find Lu Li. He had been missing for over a year. Emperor Lu and the others all thought Emperor Rui was dead. The Rui Emperor looked around and waved his hand. "Let's talk inside. It's not safe here." A group of powerful warriors entered the castle and activated the divine glyphs. Emperor Rui introduced Lu Li and then Lu Li. In the end, Emperor Rui asked the 3 Grim Reapers, "Lu Li, who are they?" The 3 Grim Reapers were Saint Emperors. One of them was at the later stage of the Saint Emperor, and the other 2 were at the middle stage of the Saint Emperor realm. To Emperor Rui and the others, they were powerful warriors. Lu Li said casually, "They're my men. How are things at the Endless Ruins? Tell me about it." "Men?" Emperor Lu and the others looked at each other. Lu Li didn't feel as powerful as the other 3. Also, Lu Li was so young, and yet he had 3 powerful men. Lu Li didn't even introduce their names. Did it mean that Lu Li had many like them? The 3 Grim Reapers cupped their fists to Lu Li and then stood on the side, emotionlessly. They didn't even dare to sit down. Emperor Rui nodded and asked Emperor Lu, "How are things?" Emperor Lu looked at Lu Li and explained, "How else can it be? All the territories have been conquered. Lord Li is hiding in the secret realm with the remaining warriors and disciples of the Heaven Emperor sect. Many other sects are hiding as well. Only a small number of warriors are hiding in the small cities in the Endless Ruins. Almost all the major cities have been conquered. There are no more forces to fight back. The 3 major races have taken over all the major cities. Are there powerful warriors and armies in all the cities?" Emperor Rui asked. There are so many cities in the Endless Ruins. In this case, the powerful warriors and armies of the 3 major races would be scattered. "No." Emperor Lu was angry at the mention of this. He said, "The Holy Girl sect and several other sects have become the dogs of the 3 major races. They are helping them control all the major cities. The 3 major races only have their armies stationed in several major cities. They know that if they were to rule directly, the Endless Ruins of Gods would be very resistant. Therefore, they let the Holy Girl sect govern as their puppet force." Lu Li nodded and asked, "How many Saint Emperors are there in the 3 major races? How many of them are close to the consummation, and where are they located?" "Saint Emperors?" Emperor Lu frowned and said, "I don't know, but I can estimate how many Emperor Realm warriors there are." "Don't worry about Emperor Realm warriors." Lu Li interrupted, "How about this? Give me the places where their armies and powerful warriors are stationed and some maps of the Endless Ruins of Gods. You don't have to worry about anything else. Also, send a message to Lord Li and ask him to come out. I will take care of the rest." "You will." Emperor Lu and the other Emperor Realm warrior looked at each other with doubt. Also, Lu Li would ask Lord Li to come out? What if Lu Li was on the side of the 3 races? Wouldn't the Heaven Emperor sect be wiped out? After a pause, Lu Li said, "Lu Li, do not let your guard down. The 3 races have many powerful warriors. This is not a joke. One mistake and our entire army will be wiped out. By then, we will be doomed eternally." Ha ha. Lu Li said nothing, but the three grim reapers laughed. One of them said bluntly, "They are just three minor races. We, Emperor Lu, have conquered many major races. Over the years, we have killed more than 10,000 Saint Emperors. For us, Emperor Lu, they are nobodies. How dare you?" Lu Li scolded. The Grim Reaper dropped to his knees in fear and said, "Emperor Lu, please don't be angry. I have spoken out of turn." Emperor Lu and the others were frightened to see the Saint Emperors trembling in fear. How powerful was Lu Li? How could he make such a powerful warrior tremble? Emperor Lu and the others suddenly realized that this once disciple of the Heaven Emperor sect was now so powerful that they could not even look up to him, killing more than 10,000 Saint Emperors? If this was true, it would be horrifying. Emperor Realm warriors were nobodies to Lu Li. Then to Lu Li, they were all nobodies. Emperor Lu didn't dare to say more. He didn't dare to suspect that Lu Li was a spy from the three races. What was more, the three races had conquered the endless ruins of gods. Sending a spy here would be pointless. Even the three major tribes probably didn't have such a fierce spy, right? Chapter 35-46. Emperor Lu provided the map and told Lu Li the location of the three races. Lu Li gave the map to the three assassins and said he needed detailed information in half a year. The three assassins snuck away at once. The three assassins were the best in intelligence gathering. Half a year was a short time, but Lu Li believed they could accomplish it. As assassins of death, if they could not accomplish such a simple task, then they would be too ashamed to be the ace of death. Where is Lord Li? Lu Li mentioned Lord Li again. Emperor Lu was hesitating. Lord Li had become the new master of the Celestial Emperor sect and was the most powerful warrior there. If Lord Li was killed, then the Celestial Emperor sect would be doomed. Emperor Lu wanted to say something, but stopped on second thought. Emperor Rui had absolute trust in Lu Li. If it were not for Swan Ancestor, he would not go to Lu Li. Emperor Rui had seen Lu Li's abilities. Naturally, he believed that Lu Li could not be a spy. Emperor Rui said at once, "Emperor Lu, I went missing for the past year because Swan Ancestor asked me to go to Lu Li. Many years ago, he had foretold that the Celestial Emperor sect would face a calamity. To survive, we need Lu Li's help." Swan Ancestor? Emperor Lu and the others were shocked. They knew about Swan Ancestor's divination ability, but they did not expect that Lu Li was the savior of the Celestial Emperor sect. Seeing that Emperor Lu still did not believe him, Emperor Rui continued, "Master Li knows this as well. Send a message to him. Tell him that I have invited Lu Li back, and he will come." "Okay," Emperor Rui said. Emperor Lu had nothing else to say. He wanted to make arrangements at once. Lu Li didn't want to waste more time. He stayed in the city. After all, the endless ruins had fallen. Almost everyone who deserved to die had died. It was pointless to worry now. It was better to get some information before taking action. This time, he wanted to play it safe. It would be best if he could force the three alien races to retreat and avoid a major conflict. He didn't want to confront the rhino apes head-on, either. There were no warriors or armies from the three alien races in this city. But the city owner had surrendered to the Holy Maiden sect. The city lord of this small city was an emperor-ranked martial artist. He was the sect master of a small sect and actually knew of the existence of Emperor Lu and the others. However, he didn't expose them because they were the vassal sect of the Celestial Emperor sect. The Celestial Emperor sect had shown them great kindness. After staying in the city for half a month, he received a message from Lord Li. That was all. He didn't say anything else. Emperor Lu and the others were confused. Emperor Rui told Lu Li, who answered with a smile, "Don't worry. Lord Li will be here soon." As expected, in just over half a month, Lord Li came quietly. He didn't even inform Emperor Lu. He came directly to the castle Lu Li lived in. Lu Li sensed it. The runes on the castle were turned off. The gate opened quietly. Lu Li said, "Lord Li, please come in." Lord Li was still wearing his bamboo hat. His back was as straight as a sword. and his entire body exuded a chilling aura. He was like a god of death that had charged out of the underworld. He was slightly startled, then slowly walked in. Lu Li walked out from the room, bowed with a smile, and said, "Greetings, Lord Li." Lord Li looked up at Lu Li. After a while, he nodded and said, "Lu Li, well done. You have reached the Saint Emperor realm in such a short time. No wonder Ancestor Swan thinks so highly of you." Lu Li smiled and said, "Lord Li, I don't think you were that close to the completion of the Saint Emperor realm, right? It is not easy for you to make the breakthrough in such a short time." "Alas," Lord Li sighed and said, "what is the point of making the breakthrough? Aren't you just like a stray dog that doesn't even dare to show your face? You can only watch as the previous clan master and Ancestor Swan sacrifice their lives. You can only watch as our sect was taken over by the enemy. You can only watch as so many disciples died in battle." Lu Li didn't say anything. He didn't have a strong sense of belonging to the Celestial Emperor's sect, but he had stayed there for some time. The Celestial Emperor's sect had helped him a lot. Lu Li thought for a while and said, "Lord Li, don't be sad. I will avenge you. My men have gone to find out the situation. Do you know anything about the 3 races? If you can provide me with some information, I can take action earlier." "You?" Lord Li didn't talk to Emperor Rue, so he didn't know about Lu Li's situation. Surprised, Lord Li said, "Lu Li, don't be reckless. The 3 races have more than 10 warriors that are close to the completion of the Saint Emperor realm and more than 100 Saint Kings. It is enough that you are willing." "Ha ha ha." Lu Li laughed. Then 2 rays of golden light came out from his eyes. Lord Li froze, and his eyes became confused. He was trapped by Lu Li's formation. Lord Li had just made the breakthrough and was very close to the completion of the Saint Emperor realm. Lu Li's soul was 10 times stronger after the heaven's tribulation. Therefore, it took Lord Li dozens of breaths before he came back to his senses. After he woke up, all the hairs on his body stood up because he felt a terrifying danger behind him. His soul was in mortal danger. His divine telekinesis swept to the left, but he found nothing. In the next moment, he felt danger coming from his right, and in the next moment, he felt a fatal danger coming from behind. Buzzing, before Lord Li could come back to his senses, a man appeared in front of him. Lu Li asked with a smile, "Lord Li, what do you feel?" "What?" Lord Li was taken aback. Lu Li had trapped his soul for dozens of breaths. What was more, the sense of danger could not fool him. He had been wandering between life and death for many years. He knew this all too well. Lu Li just disappeared, and he didn't sense anything. What did it mean? It meant that if Lu Li wanted to kill him, he would have died many times. How could Lu Li have such abilities? Lu Li had just reached the Saint Emperor realm, and he could kill warriors that were close to the completion of the Saint Emperor realm. Freak! Lord Li recalled the past. It seemed that Lu Li had always been a freak. Back in the days, he could form a Dharma realm and reach the Emperor realm at the 5th tribulation. There were many more strange things that happened later. Ancestor Swan's divination is so accurate, Lord Li exclaimed to himself. He stared at Lu Li and said, "Lu Li, you can kill warriors that are close to the completion of the Saint Emperor realm." "Yes," Lu Li answered with a smile. "I have killed more than 100 warriors that are close to the completion of the Saint Emperor realm." "Right? 100? Lord Li opened his eyes wide again. He stared at Lu Li carefully to make sure that he was not joking. Lord Li blushed and trembled with excitement. Taking a few deep breaths, he said, Good, good, good. Lu Li, if you can help us defeat the 3 alien races, then Ancestor Swan and the previous master can die in peace. The Celestial Emperor sect will accept you as their master and follow your orders. Forget about the position of master." Lu Li waved his hand and said, "Truth be told, Lord Li, I am one of the leaders of another force. I am here purely to return the favor. Lord Li, my master and the Celestial Emperor sect have all done me a great favor. Now that the Celestial Emperor sect is in trouble, how can I stand by and do nothing?" Chapter 35-47. Lord Li had obtained complete intelligence. The 3 races' armies numbered in the tens of millions. There were a few hundred emperors, over 100 saint emperors, and 12 experts that were infinitely close to the Paragon realm. The leaders of the three races were all old monsters, and their battle prowess surpassed the Swan ancestor. The Boring Blade race, the Blood Rock race, and the Talisman race. The three races had always been the sworn enemies of the endless ruins of gods. They had been fighting against the nearby universes. Since the two sides had different backers, the hatred could not be resolved. Now that the backer of the endless ruins of gods had fallen, the three races sent out their armies at once. First, they destroyed the nearby universes, and then they came to attack the endless ruins of gods. The endless ruins of gods formed an allied force. Almost all the powerful warriors were sent out to protect the endless ruins of gods. Unfortunately, the warriors of one universe could not defeat the warriors of three universes. Therefore, the Swan ancestor died in battle. The Celestial Emperor's sect was wiped out. Many major races were wiped out. The endless ruins of gods fell. Now, the armies of the three races had spread out. Some of the armies and powerful warriors had been mobilized back. The situation here was basically under control. There were only some remaining forces. There was no need for so many warriors to stay. Lordly took out a map and carefully marked out the locations where the enemy experts were garrisoned. Luli nodded. He asked Lordly to take out his token to contact the three God of Death and asked Lord Li's subordinates to assist the three God of Death. Though he trusted the Celestial Emperor's sect, they were weak. They might not be able to get some high-level intelligence. The surviving warriors of the Celestial Emperor's sect and the three God of Death would be able to gather accurate information. Li and Lordly discussed for a while and decided to attack one of the major races nearby. That race was stationed in the Celestial Emperor's city, not far away. At Li's top speed, it would take him 5 or 6 days to get there. Li and the others did not go at full speed. They kept a low profile. Along the way, Lordly gave out many orders and began to mobilize forces. The Celestial Emperor's sect was gone. But after so many years, there were many hidden forces. They were all in hiding. Once they were mobilized, they would be a force to be reckoned with. Li and Lordly decided to wipe out the Blood Rock race in the Celestial Emperor sect as soon as possible and kill all their powerful warriors. After the army was eliminated, Lordly could represent the Heavenly Arch sect to gather all the martial artists and experts of the continent. At that time, he would go and eliminate the experts and armies of the other two great races. Once all the experts and armies of the three races were killed, the reinforcements of the three races would arrive. As long as the reinforcements were repelled, the endless ruins of gods would be stabilized. As a matter of fact, Luli did not tell Lordly that defeating the allied forces of the three alien races was just the beginning. The real battle was with the rhino apes. For Luli, the three alien races were not much of a challenge. In total, there were more than a dozen warriors who were infinitely close to the consummate realm. None of them were enough for him to kill. Now that some of the experts had returned, there were probably only 6 or 7 ultimate experts left in the endless ruins of gods. It took Luli half a month to arrive at the Celestial Emperor City. There was a mountain to the north of the Celestial Emperor City. Luli and the others were hiding in this mountain. There was a secret base in the depths of the mountain range. At the moment, there were already thousands of soldiers gathered in the base. Most of them were at the 6th tribulation level, but there were also some at the Arch level. 2 days later, the space in front of Luli began to tremble. Then, a Grim Reaper appeared in front of Luli. Lordly was taken aback. He did not sense this Grim Reaper sneaking in. He only noticed it when the Grim Reaper showed up. Lu Huang. The Grim Reaper saluted with respect. He did not even look at Lordly. Luli asked coldly, "How is the Celestial Emperor City?" The Grim Reaper bowed and said, "There is an army stationed there called the Blood Rock race. There are 2 warriors infinitely close to the consummate realm, 32 Saint Kings, and more than 100 great emperors. The army has more than 2 million warriors." This Ace Grim Reaper also gave Lordly a detailed map. This map was marked with the detailed deployment of the army. Lord Lee glanced at it and admired this ace Grim Reaper. The information provided by the Grim Reaper was accurate, much more detailed than that of the disciples of the Celestial Emperor's sect. After all, there were many hidden disciples of the Celestial Emperor's sect in the Celestial Emperor's city. Okay, Luli nodded. Looking at Lord Lee, he asked, Lord Lee, when do you think we should do it? Lord Lee thought about it and said, how about we wait a little longer? We still have some allies who are not here. When they come, we will be stronger. No, Luli smiled. Leave the two experts who are infinitesimally close to great perfection to me. Leave all the Saint Kings to me as well. Once I'm done with them, you can gather all the armies and experts and clean up the army. But Lord Lee was taken aback. After a moment of hesitation, he said, I don't think that is a good idea. How about I go with you? When we are together, we can look after each other. After all, it is too dangerous for you to go alone. Lord Lee was still worried about Lu Li. Even though Lu Li's strength was unpredictable, he was still alone in the enemy's camp. If something happened to him, it would be troublesome. By then, not only would their hope of recovery be dashed, they would not be able to answer to Lu Li's family and friends. Lu Li smiled, but did not explain. That ace of death said with a smile, back in the days, our Lu Huang went deep into the enemy's territory. There were billions of warriors and hundreds of warriors infinitely close to the consummate realm. There were also warriors at the consummate realm chasing after him. Yet, he was able to pass through unhindered. This is nothing. Lu Li waved his hand and said, it is decided. Wait for my news. I will crush the token and you will rush out. Try to kill all the warriors here. If you escape, it will be hard to hunt you down. Whoosh. Lu Li flew out at once. Halfway there, he vanished into thin air in front of the powerful warriors. Lord Lee and the others were breathing heavily. Whether the Heaven Emperor sect could recover would depend on this battle. If they won, the Heaven Emperor sect would become the overlord of the endless ruins again. If they lost, the Heaven Emperor sect would have to struggle at death's door. Maybe in 10,000 years, the Heaven Emperor sect would have a chance to rise again, or it would disappear in history forever. Lord Lee sent out Emperor Rue and Emperor Lu to monitor the Heaven Emperor's city from a distance. They didn't dare to get too close for fear that they would be discovered. Half an hour later, the inside of the city suddenly became chaotic. The sound of explosions could be heard, as well as countless mournful bugles, as well as loud roars. The army stationed outside of the city whistled over and rushed into the city. The celestial city was in a complete mess. Bang! The jade talisman in Lord Li's hand cracked. It was given to Lord Li by Lu Li. The destruction of the jade talisman meant that Lu Li had succeeded. At this moment, Lord Li hesitated. Was it because the time was so short? How could Lu Li kill two warriors that were infinitely close to the consummate realm so easily? This feeling was a little surreal. My order. After hesitating for half an incense's time, Lord Li clenched his teeth and roared, all the martial artists in the vicinity, attack. Destroy the Blood Rock race's army. Chapter 35-48. Among the thousands of warriors, dozens were at the Great Emperor realm. More than a dozen were at the Saint King realm. Only 2 were close to the Perfect realm. The other one was a master of a force affiliated with the Heaven Emperor sect. If the experts of the Blood Rock race hadn't been killed, then the thousands of soldiers and experts would have been completely annihilated if they had rushed over. Therefore, Lord Li's decision was risky. If Lu Li had colluded with the 3 alien races, the Heaven Emperor sect would be wiped out. In the end, Lord Li chose to trust Lu Li, Emperor Rue, and Swan Ancestor. Their distance wasn't too far. It only took them the time it took for an incense stick to burn to reach there. When they arrived in the vicinity of Celestial City, they discovered that Celestial City was already in a mess. Many places in the city were destroyed, corpses were everywhere. Celestial City had turned into hell. Lord Li and the others used psychic power to check the city. They saw many dead Saint Kings and 2 char bodies. They were the Blood Rock race warriors that were close to the Perfect realm. Lord Li and the others were relieved to see this. Charge! Lordly roared as he swung the sword in his hand, sending out a rain of swords that swept out. Immediately, groups of soldiers were killed. With just one move, he had killed at least 1,000 soldiers. Emperor Rui and Emperor Lu started killing as well. For them, killing average warriors was no different from slaughtering pigs and sheep. It was too easy. Buzzing. Above the celestial city, a man emerged with a relic weapon in his hand. He swung at a great Emperor Realm warrior, and the relic weapon vanished to the air. The next second, the relic weapon appeared on the head of the great Emperor Realm warrior. Then the head exploded. Devil. He is a devil. Luli flashed around, disappearing and reappearing. Every time he appeared, he would take away a dead body of a great Emperor Realm warrior. Luli had killed all the Saint Kings of the Bloodrock race. Now, he was killing great Emperor Realm warriors. At first, the Bloodrock race was enraged. But now they had calmed down. Luli was too strong. They were no match for him. Their patriarchs and great patriarchs had all been killed. If they did not run now, they would all perish here. Lord Li and the others were coming. They were all powerful warriors, and most of them were lords. They were unstoppable. Many of the Bloodrock race soldiers were terrified, and they began to flee in all directions. Lord Li roared angrily and released a powerful area of effect skill. The other Saint Emperor and the group of Thearchs did the same. The Bloodrock race was the main culprit behind the annihilation of their Celestial Emperor sect. Now that there was a chance, how could they miss it? All the experts released their strongest powers and methods, striving to keep as many soldiers as possible. Those 6 tribulations also went crazy. They chased after the Bloodrock race's soldiers in a frenzy. Luli stopped after he killed another 2 Bloodrock race warriors. He floated in the air lazily. There were more Bloodrock race warriors in the distance, but none of them dared to come close to him. Moreover, when the soldiers saw him, they felt as if they were looking at a ferocious ghost. Their eyes were filled with terror. Go and help them. Luli waved his hand, and the Ace Reaper appeared beside him. This was a late Saint King, a trump card in the world of assassins. He could kill them even faster. Luli decided not to worry about what would happen next. He believed that Lord Li and the others would chase after them for days and nights. Of the 2 million warriors, no more than 2 or 300,000 could escape. The number of warriors seemed to be large. However, without powerful warriors, these warriors were lambs waiting to be slaughtered. If Lord Li was given enough time, not too much, just half a day, he could finish all the warriors as long as they did not run. After a while, Luli flew into a random castle. Inside the castle, he sipped his tea and waited for the end of the battle. He waited for 5 days before Lord Li came back. Lord Li was covered in blood, the blood of his enemies. He had been killing for 4 days and 4 nights, but he was not tired at all. On the contrary, he was excited. He found Lu Li and stood in front of him solemnly. He bowed to Lu Li with respect and said, "Thank you, Lu Li, for your kindness. The Celestial Emperor sect is grateful and will remember this forever." "Lord Li, you are flattering me." Lu Li helped Lord Li up and said with sincerity, "Lord Li, you, Emperor Ray, Ancestor Swan, and many other warriors of the Celestial Emperor sect have done me a great favor. I'm just doing what I should. Lord Li, please don't stand on ceremony." Good. Lord Li enjoyed Lu Li's attitude. He cupped his fists and said, "I will go and clean myself up. We will talk later." "Okay." Lu Li nodded. Lord Li left. Not long afterward, he came back. Lu Li asked about the situation. Lord Li told him that over half of the Bloodrock race warriors were killed and only a few 100,000 escaped. But there was nothing to be done. They were not fully prepared. Many hidden, powerful warriors of the Celestial Emperor sect and affiliated forces were not here. It doesn't matter. It won't affect the overall situation. Lu Li did not mind. They were just some average warriors. It was not a big deal. He said, "Next, raise the flag and call all the experts in the endless ruins of gods to gather here. In addition, mobilize a large number of scouts to investigate the situation of the other 2 races. Send scouts to guard the passages in and out of the endless ruins of gods. No problem. Lordly went to make arrangements in excitement. Luli, on the other hand, had nothing to do. He wandered around the Celestial Emperor sect leisurely. He went to the Celestial Emperor realm. Visiting this old place reminded him of many things. Unfortunately, the Celestial Emperor realm was damaged. Some lands of treasures were destroyed as well. Many treasures were taken away. The place was bleak and desolate. Luli remembered how lively the Celestial Emperor realm used to be. There were tens of thousands of disciples in the Celestial Emperor realm. It was full of vigor and vigor. But now, the Celestial Emperor realm had become a ruin. If it were not for him, the Celestial Emperor realm would have become a relic in hundreds of years. Now that the Celestial Emperor's sect had risen again, the Celestial Emperor realm would become lively again. While Luli was revisiting this old place, Lordly made an announcement. The Celestial Emperor's sect had wiped out the Blood Rock race. Celestial City and the Celestial Emperor realm had been recovered. As the new master of the Celestial Emperor's sect, Lordly called all the powerful warriors of the Endless Ruins to gather at the Celestial City to fight against the 3 alien races and drive the invaders out of the Endless Ruins. As soon as the announcement was made, it spread across the entire Endless Ruins in a dozen days. Warriors of many forces and sects were ready to resign themselves to adversity. They had lost all hope and were ready to accept the rule and enslavement of the 3 alien races. Now that the announcement was made, warriors across the Endless Ruins saw hope. Lordly was a well-known, powerful warrior. He made the announcement in the name of the master of the Celestial Emperor sect. Naturally, the credibility of the announcement was high. He would not lie about something as important as this. Otherwise, Lordly would be condemned by all, and the Celestial Emperor sect would be ruined. At once, many warriors began to swarm toward the Celestial City. They joined the army of justice to fight against the invasion and the alien races. When some warriors arrived, they found many dead bodies of the Blood Rock race hanging outside the Celestial City. The news of the destruction of the Blood Rock race spread quickly. This time, more reclusive warriors were mobilized. They swarmed toward the Celestial City as fast as they could. Chapter 35-49. The annihilation of the Blood Rock race's army shocked the Boring Blade race and the Talisman race. Because this was the Blood Rock race's territory, they did not leave any troops behind. They did not know what was going on. They could only send out scouts, as well as the Saintis sect and other sects to mobilize scouts to investigate the situation. The Blood Rock race had 2 grand elders and dozens of elders guarding this place. How could they be destroyed so easily? Most of the experts in the Heavenly Tharch sect had been annihilated, and only Lordly managed to escape. Lordly had just broken through to the Grand Perfection stage. So how could he be a match for the Blood Rock race's Supreme Elder? This matter was very strange. The Grand Elders of the 2 clans sent messages to each other while mobilizing their armies to gather together. In addition, they sent a message back to their clans, requesting for reinforcement from the 3 clans to suppress the turbulent situation here. Lordly waved his arm, and the originally stagnant Endless Gods ruins started to surge again. Many hidden experts were mobilized, and countless experts from the smaller sects gathered at the Celestial Emperor's sect. Just like how the Middle King realms had rebelled against the Devil Abyss back then, the Endless Ruins of God was their home. Now that they were being invaded by foreign races, all the citizens of the Endless Ruins of God should band together to protect their home and expel the invaders. In just 2 short months, millions of martial artists had gathered here. There were hundreds of martial emperors, and there was one more powerhouse who was infinitely close to the Great Perfection realm. It was an old demon who had lived in seclusion for many years. This old devil was famous for his wickedness. In the past, he had enmity with the Heavenly Emperor sect. However, in the face of the enmity between nations and families, these enmity could be put aside. According to the investigation of the Saintis sect scouts and the news spread by the Blood Rock race's escaping martial artists, They were defeated because of a mysterious expert from the Heavenly Emperor's sect. He sneaked into the celestial city and assassinated 2 of the supreme elders of the Bloodrock race. Then he killed the elders of the Bloodrock race one by one with terrifying speed. In the end, Lord Lee and the others arrived with the army, and more than half of the Bloodrock race's army was slaughtered. After receiving this news, the experts from the Boring Blade clan and the Rune clan felt their hearts palpitate. They knew very well how powerful the 2 supreme elders of the Bloodrock clan were. Even if they were ambushed, it was impossible for both of them to be killed at the same time, right? This meant that the strength of the assailant was very abnormal. The 2 Grim Reapers working for Lee had been monitoring the situation of the Boring Blade race and the Rune race. They had gathered accurate information and sent it over. The 2 races also left behind 2 great elders who were infinitely close to great perfection, a few dozen Saint Emperors, and an army of around 4 million. Right now, the 2 armies were moving closer to each other. It was estimated that in a month or so, the 2 armies would gather together. Lee was ready to act as soon as he heard the news. Once the 2 armies gathered together, there would be 4 warriors who were infinitely close to the consummate realm. Although he was not afraid, why would he take the risk when he could kill them easily? Lee told Lord Lee to come with the army and other powerful warriors while he went ahead. He even took out his battleship and flew over. His battleship was the Grim Reaper's battleship, and it was extremely fast. There is no such battleship in the endless ruins of God, and it could be easily detected. Lee was fearless, not to mention that the 4 powerhouses who were infinitely close to the great perfection realm hadn't gathered together yet. Even if they did, he wouldn't be afraid. Therefore, he flew over openly. Given the speed of his battleship, he would encounter the Boring Blade race in half a month. The Holy Lady sect had become the ruler of the endless ruins of God. Every city had their warriors. Lee's blatant flying over-alerted the Holy Lady sect. The Saintess sect sent a message to the Boring Blade race and the Talisman race. These 2 races attached great importance to this, but their armies were on the move. It was impossible for their supreme experts to abandon their armies. What if this was a trick to lure the tiger away from the mountain? Lee was not afraid that the powerful warriors of the Rune race would go to the Boring Blade race's aid. If they did, he could attack the Rune race's army and see if they would come back. For Lee, who had been through many battles, fighting against the 3 races was nothing more than a game. He flew in a straight line and approached the Boring Blade race. The Boring Blade race was panicking. They hadn't met up with the Rune race yet. The great patriarch of the Boring Blade race told the army to stop and set up camp. At the same time, he sent a message to the Rune race to ask their great patriarch to come and help. Soon, the Rune race replied. They told the Boring Blade race to hold on, and they would come with reinforcements as soon as possible. 3 days later, the battleship arrived at the mountain of drifting clouds where the Boring Blade race was stationed. Lee flew the battleship to a halt in front of the army. The shield was deactivated, and Lee appeared on the deck. What? The Boring Blade race was on high alert. They were surprised to see that there was only one Saint King at the initial stage. The 2 great patriarchs of the Boring Blade race were surprised. They didn't move. Instead, they used psychic power to check around to see if there were other powerful warriors lying in ambush. Where is the great patriarch of the Boring Blade race? Come out! Lee shouted. Several Saint Emperors of the Boring Blade race flew out and surrounded half of the battleship. One of the Saint Emperors shouted, "Who are you? Why are you helping the Heaven Emperor sect against the Boring Blade race?" "I am indebted to the Heaven Emperor sect." Lee didn't mind that he was surrounded. He said lazily, helping the Heaven Emperor sect is the right thing to do. Whether the Boring Blade race wants to be my enemy or not is up to you. Leave the endless ruins and promise that you will not invade again. Then, I can spare you this time. Ha 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 ha. The few Saint Emperors burst into laughter, and one of them sneered, "You? Kneel down and kowtow out to us for 100 times, and we will consider not killing you. We will only cripple you." Buzzing. The traceless saber appeared in Lee's hand. He waved it, and the traceless saber disappeared. In the next second, The traceless saber appeared in front of the Saint King without any sound or sign. The Saint King didn't even feel the ripple in space before the traceless saber landed on his head. Boom! The Saint King's head was crushed. The other Saint Kings nearby were scared out of their wits. The two great patriarchs in the army were scared as well. They stared at the traceless saber in Lu Li's hand with fear. Whoosh! A great patriarch of the boring blade race flew over. He asked, "Who are you?" "I don't think you're a warrior from the endless ruins." Lu Li nodded. He knew that the two great patriarchs had recognized the supreme weapon. He said, "I'm the Grim Reaper from the Chaotic Star region. Have you heard of me?" "The Chaotic Star region?" The great patriarch of the boring blade race frowned. Of course, he had heard of the Chaotic Star region. It was a superstar region like the Heaven Universe region. The great patriarch of the boring blade race had some impression of the Grim Reaper as well. He had been to the Heaven Universe region some time ago and heard some stories about the Grim Reaper. Wait, the great patriarch of the boring blade race suddenly trembled. A glint of coldness rose in his eyes. He stared at Lu Li and asked, "Are you one of the leaders of the Grim Reaper, Lu Huang?" Lu Li smiled. "Yes, I am. I see that you are knowledgeable. Do you want to fight or retreat? Just tell me." Chapter 3550. Death God Magnate, Lu Huang. Most of the boring bladers were confused. Was Lu Li famous? It actually made their grand elder's expression turn so ugly. Isn't he just an early-stage Saint King? It seemed like his weapon was a little special. It was a very high-grade divine weapon. The expressions of the two supreme elders from the Boring Blade clan became increasingly unsightly. They finally understood why the two supreme elders from the Blood Rock clan had died so mysteriously. They had been to the rhinoceros ape race and had heard some things about Lu Li. Even though they did not know the details, Lu Li's ferocity had frightened many families in the universe region. They did not know much about Lu Li's means. But if the major families of the universe region were afraid of him, then Lu Li must be very powerful. That was why the two great patriarchs were so afraid. The fact that Lu Li dared to come here alone meant that he was either not an idiot or he had something to rely on. The two grand elders discussed for a while before one of them said, "Emperor Lu, our boring blade race, the Blood Rock race, and the Talisman race are all subsidiary races of the rhinoceros ape race. The rhinoceros ape race is ranked 8th in the Skyspace star field. This attack on the endless divine ruins is also the intention of the rhinoceros ape race's leader. If you insist on going against us, then you will become enemies with the Rhino Ape clan, so I hope you'll be careful. Don't use the Rhino Ape race to scare me." Lu Li sneered and said, "I have fought against races more powerful than the rhinoceros ape race. Don't worry about the rhinoceros ape race. Let me ask you, the boring blade race, are you going to leave or not?" "No." The supreme elder of the boring blade clan let out a deep roar. Then he and the other supreme elder moved almost at the same time. The two powerhouses turned into lightning-fast auroras and charged at a terrifying speed. Their arms were as sharp as knives, cutting at Lu Li with a shrill noise that tore apart the space. Lu Li was only an early Saint King. Even if he had some fame, the two great elders did not really believe him. They decided to give a try. They had already eaten the endless divine ruins. How could they be willing to spit it out just like that? Buzz, Lu Li's body glowed, and then he vanished into thin air. So did the battleship. The two powerful warriors were still in the air. They used psychic power to check, but could not find a trace of Lu Li. Lu Li felt he had vanished into thin air. In addition to the two great patriarchs, many saint emperors and armies were searching as well, trying to find Lu Li. However, after the time for one incense stick to burn, there was still no trace of Lu Li, not even a trace. The two grand elders searched everywhere and also split up to search. A supreme elder was searching in a mountain when he suddenly felt a fatal sense of danger coming from behind him. He suddenly turned his head, only to see a flame expanding and instantly engulfing him. "Lu Li is over here," a Saint Emperor shouted. The warriors nearby began to attack in a frenzy. But Lu Li disappeared as soon as he made his move. By the time the nearby Grand Elders came over, the Grand Elder here had already turned into charcoal. He couldn't be more dead. Terrifying. The other Great Elder and all the Saint Kings felt chills run down their spines when they saw the Great Elder's corpse. Lu Li was like a ghost, vanishing right before the eyes of the millions of soldiers without them noticing. He had slain an expert who was extremely close to great perfection with a single strike. Buzzing. All of a sudden, another great patriarch's back began to tremble. Following that, another streak of flame expanded and engulfed the great patriarch. This time, Lu Li did not hide. He began to kill with his traceless sword. Though there were many Saint Emperors around, Lu Li did not mind. His physical strength and speed were amazing. Those Saint Emperors could not hurt him. He could withstand attacks from regular warriors that were close to the consummate realm. Naturally, he was not afraid of Saint Emperors. What was more, Lu Li would hide every now and then. When there were too many Saint Emperors, he would attack here and there. Sometimes, he would use formations, and he would take out the Gong Huangding to fend off stronger attacks. For him, these Saint Emperors and Great Emperors were just like adults playing with kids. After playing hide-and-seek for a while, the powerful warriors of the Boring Blade race realized that more than half of their Saint Emperors were dead. Many of their Great Emperors were killed as well. But they couldn't even hurt a hair of Lu Li's. Finally, they came to their senses from anger. If they didn't retreat now, they would end up like the Bloodrock race. Lu Li alone could kill millions of their warriors. Retreat, a Saint Emperor yelled and added, retreat from the endless ruins and go back to the Boring Blade universe. Boom! As soon as the Saint King finished his words, he was killed by Lu Li. The other warriors were scared, and they began to flee to all directions. Those Saint Emperors and Martial Emperors also fled in all directions. Lu Li stopped after chasing for an hour. He could have kept on going. If he had made up his mind to kill hundreds of thousands of warriors, it would not have been difficult. But powerful warriors had their own pride. Lu Li did not want to kill those great emperors. It would be beneath him and meaningless. After all, so many powerful warriors of the Boring Blade race had been killed. The rest of the warriors and warriors would leave the endless ruins. Now that they had left the endless ruins, Lu Li had achieved his goal. Why would he be so ruthless? Lu Li took out his battleship and flew toward the Talisman race. Once the powerful warriors of the Talisman race were defeated, the endless ruins would be recovered and his first task would be accomplished. He would only be satisfied when he could fend off the attacks from the three races and the Rhino Apes or reach an agreement with the Rhino Apes. The Talisman race was not far away. It took Lu Li 10 days to arrive at the camp of the Talisman race. He swaggered to the camp and shouted, "Great Patriarch of the Talisman race, come out." Whoosh, 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 many powerful warriors of the Talisman race flew up. Two great patriarchs of the Talisman race showed up as well. One of them said coldly, "I am Fuin. How can I help you?" "I have wiped out the Bloodrock race and the Boring Blade race." Lu Li said lazily, "Are you going to retreat or not? If you don't, I don't mind wiping out the Talisman race as well." What? Lu Li's battleship was fast. News of the Boring Blade race's situation had not arrived yet. Therefore, the Talisman race did not know what was going on. They were stunned by Lu Li's words. A great patriarch of the Talisman race sneered and said, "Who do you think you are? How dare you to talk nonsense here? Piss off, or I will kill you." Upon hearing this, the several Saint Emperor race patriarchs wielded their weapons and charged at Lu Li. They were ready to kill him at any moment. Lu Li's appearance was too strange, and the destruction of the Bloodrock race was too strange. Otherwise, the powerful warriors of the Talisman race would have taken actions. The traceless saber appeared in Lu Li's hand. His face was cold, and his killing intent was building up. Lifting his saber, he pointed at the powerful warriors of the Talisman race and said, "You have chosen this. In the future, don't push me. I have given you a chance. Kill him." The great patriarch of the Talisman race shouted. More than a dozen Saint Emperor race patriarchs whooshed over and surrounded Lu Li. However, before they arrived, the battleship disappeared, and so did Lu Li. The battle had begun again. Master 3. Chapter 35:51. There was no suspense in the battle. Luli killed 2 powerful warriors of the Talisman race easily. Then, he killed a group of Saint Kings. The army of the Talisman race collapsed. After killing a group of Saint Kings and Great Emperors, Luli didn't care about anything else. He didn't say anything and went back the way he came. After flying for 13 days, Luli encountered the army led by Lordly. Luli stopped when he saw the huge army. Not long after, Lordly flew over with a few experts. Luli opened the shield, and Lordly flew in. Lordly was delighted to see that Luli was safe and sound. He said, "Luli, I'm glad that you are fine. How is it going?" Many of the Heavenly Emperor's sect's experts and soldiers had been killed. Hence, their intelligence system had been severely damaged. They had yet to receive any news about the situation here. Luli smiled. "Okay, it is done. The armies of the Boring Blade race and the Rune race have been defeated. More than half of their powerful warriors have been killed. I think many of their armies will escape from this universe. I will leave the rest to you." Lord Li and the other experts were astonished, especially those who had joined later, such as a reclusive old demon. His eyes were filled with suspicion. Luli was just an early Saint King? Was he that powerful? Are you sure you're not bragging? Lordly reacted quickly. He bowed and said, "The endless ruins will remember your kindness for generations to come." Luli, thank you. Luli waved his hand and said, "Lordly, you are welcome. I don't care about anything else. I'm going to the Saintess sect." To the female sage sect? Lordly was stunned again. Luli explained, "I have a wife who used to be trapped in the Holy Girl sect. Before I came here, she told me to destroy the Holy Girl sect. This sect is too evil to be allowed to exist in the world." Lordly nodded. "You're right. We've been too lenient with them in the past. This time, they've surrendered to the 3 races and are helping the evildoers. We really do need to destroy them. All right, you guys can go." Luli waved his hand. Lordly flew out with a group of powerful warriors. Luli changed the direction of the battleship and flew toward the Holy Maiden sect. The warship was very fast, disappearing into the horizon in the blink of an eye. Sect Masterly. After Luli left, the reclusive, powerful warrior couldn't help but ask, "Can you trust his words?" "Of course." Lordly glanced at the expert and said, "He is one of the strongest experts in the chaotic star fields. He can easily kill people at our level. He snuck into the Blood Rock race alone and killed 2 of their Grand Elders in an instant. To him, killing a Saint Emperor is as easy as slaughtering a pig. How is this possible? He's so young." The old monster's mouth was agape. He murmured, "And he really is an early Saint King. I must have sensed it correctly. Realm doesn't mean anything." Lordly shook his head and said, "Do you know that this person condensed the Dharma realm at the 5th tribulation and broke through to the Arch realm? Back then, this person also did many shocking things in the endless ruins of God. My clan's ancestor even sighed with emotion that he was the son of heaven's mandate. If he didn't fall, then he would soar straight into the clouds and stand proudly at the peak. Let's go and see the situation first." The old monster still didn't quite believe it. Seeing is believing. If he didn't see the Talisman race and the Boring Blade race being defeated, he wouldn't dare to believe it. The Saintly Goddess sect was panicking. The Celestial Emperor's sect's information transmission system was destroyed, but the Saintly Goddess sect was very complete. Because the Saintly Goddess sect managed the endless ruins of God for the 3 races, their information network was even more developed. 2 days after the Boring Blade race and the Talisman race were defeated, they received the news. A mysterious expert appeared and easily massacred the Blood Rock race, the Boring Blade race, and the Talisman race. The experts of the 3 races were almost completely wiped out. Now, their armies were fleeing. The Boring Blade race's army directly flew out of the void, wanting to leave the endless divine ruins. The defeat of the 3 races meant that the Saintly Goddess sect had also lost, which meant that the Celestial Emperor's sect had won. The saintly goddess sect had surrendered to the three races and helped them kill many disciples of the Celestial Emperor sect and its affiliated sections. Now that the Celestial Emperor sect had won, how could they let the saintly goddess sect go? The higher-ups of the saintly goddess sect even thought about leaving with the three races. However, most of the powerful warriors of the three races were dead. The saintly goddess sect could not contact the higher-ups of the three races. The three races didn't have the time to take care of the saintly goddess sect. The master of the saintly goddess sect had no time to worry about the saintly goddess sect. On the other hand, Luli had arrived at the saintly goddess sect. He did not stop. He swaggered toward the saintly goddess sect. The Celestial Emperor sect did not have the time to worry about the saintly goddess sect. But Luli had arrived at the saintly goddess sect. He did not stop. He swaggered toward the saintly goddess sect. Lordly had a complete collection of information about the saintly goddess sect. The master of the saintly goddess sect was a powerful warrior very close to the complete completion of the saintly goddess sect. The other masters were all saint kings. For Luli, it was not a big deal. The battleship flew past the saintly goddess city and entered the mountains of the saintly goddess sect. Luli arrived at the steepest peak. The battleship was so fast that the powerful warriors of the nearby mountains did not have time to react. They were alerted when Luli arrived. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Many powerful warriors rushed over from the mountains and surrounded the battleship. Since the runes on the battleship were not turned off, the powerful warriors could not use psychic power to see inside. They had never seen the battleship before, but they knew something about it. They knew nothing about the situation inside the battleship. But when they looked at the battleship, they were filled with solemnity and fear. Shadow Queen. From inside the battleship came a voice of surprise. Then, the runes on the battleship disappeared. A figure as straight as a sword appeared on the deck. Luli looked at the elegant and charming lady. He smiled and said, "Shadow Queen, long time no see. Do you still remember me?" Luli? Shadow Queen stared at Luli with wide eyes. All of a sudden, she shouted in surprise, You are Luli?" Back in the days, Luli had brought great humiliation to the holy goddess sect, and to her as well. How could she forget about Luli? Ha 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 ha. Luli laughed happily. He didn't expect that he could meet Shadow Queen again. Back then, she almost killed him. She sent out 3 powerful warriors, which led to the death of Yanzu of the Hu family. She was the culprit. "You have reached the Saint Emperor realm?" Shadow Queen was surprised. Luli had been missing for years. It was said that he was imprisoned in the Purgatory region by the Heaven Emperor sect. Shadow Queen thought that Luli was dead. She didn't expect that after so many years, Luli would show up in front of her again, and he had reached the Saint Emperor realm. But Shadow Queen had reached the Saint Emperor realm as well. She put on a mocking smile and said, "What? Do you think you can do whatever you want in the saintly goddess sect now that you have reached the Saint Emperor realm? You are so naive. You are the naive one, not me." Luli smiled and said, "I have killed 3 masters of the saintly goddess sect. What are you going to do? I have come so far to wipe out the saintly goddess sect. I want your evil sect to disappear from the boundless ruins forever." "Ha ha ha you." Shadow Queen laughed. But soon, she came back to her senses. She said with her eyes wide open, "You destroyed the Blood Rock race, Dullblade race, and the Talisman race? 3 masters." Chapter 35:52. Buzzing with a noise, the runes on the main peak were opened up. 9 luxurious chariots flew out. On the 8 chariots on the left and right stood 5 beautiful ladies with swords in their hands. They were all wearing black dresses, elegant and elegant. Each of them had their own unique temperament, like chrysanthemums in spring and orchids in autumn. On the golden chariot in the middle sat a middle-aged lady. She had a phoenix crown on her head and was wearing a black and yellow imperial dress. She was graceful and elegant, just like an empress. "Greetings, master." Queen Shadow and all the powerful warriors nearby dropped to one knee with reverence on their faces. Some patriarchs of the holy sect even had fanaticism in their eyes, as if this lady was their sky, an omnipotent god. Master of the holy sect glanced over and then saw Lu Li. She stood up from the chariot and bowed. She put on a humble smile and said, Lord Lu, Rong Yin greets you. Lord Lu, may you live a long life. Everyone was dumbfounded. They had thought that Master would make a move as soon as she came out. They didn't expect that she would bow to Lu Li in such a manner. Master of the holy sect was horrifying. How could she bow to a saint king at the initial stage? The patriarchs of the holy sect did not understand, but Master of the holy sect did. There was some information that the patriarchs did not know. Even if they did, they were not clear about it. Master of the holy sect was well aware that the destruction of the 3 alien races was almost the work of this young man alone. Also, Master of the holy sect had a mole in the Heaven Emperor's sect. She could not be clearer about Lu Li. She knew that Lu Li came from the Chaotic Star region, and he was an overlord there. In other words, Lu Li was more powerful and horrifying than the 3 alien races. He was a real master. She could not afford to offend the 3 alien races. How could she afford to offend someone more powerful? Naturally, she came over to greet Lu Li. Everyone had to kneel. Who wouldn't? Everyone had to call Lu Li Dad, so why not? Greetings, Lord Lu. Lord Lu, may you live a long life. Dozens of orioles and swallows followed suit and bowed in salute. Moreover, these dozens of women's eyes were like limpid autumn water, filled with tender feelings, making one feel pity for them, as if they wanted to be taken away from him. Lu Li threw a glance to the chief of the Holy Lady sect, and then to the dozens of young maids. He put on a smile. The chief of the Holy Lady sect was smart. She knelt down directly. Was she telling Lu Li not to slap a smiling face? If it was an ordinary sect, he would have let it go, but not the saint's sect. The doctrines and actions of this sect were twisted and perverted. This sect was made up of a bunch of crazy women. Leaving this sect alive would only bring endless disasters to the endless ruins of God. Therefore, the sect had to be destroyed. For the sake of Ancestor Yin aside, for the sake of Linglong and Lu Ling, the sect had to be destroyed. His silence made the atmosphere awkward. Those patriarchs of the Holy Lady's sect held their breaths and looked at Lu Li nervously. The chief of the Holy Lady's sect looked at Lu Li as well. As for the other young ladies, they were still bowing their heads and looking at Lu Li pitifully. After the time for dozens of breaths, Lu Li finally said, You know me, Master Rong? Lord Lu, you must be joking. Rong Yin exhaled. Her pride was trembling. She said with a smile, Lord Lu, you are one of the most powerful warriors in the Chaotic Star region. I have heard many stories about you over the years, and I have admired you for a long time. Lord Lu, who in the world doesn't know you? Yeah. The nearby elders were even more astonished. Their sect master actually had such an attitude. Was this still their sect master? How come they felt that facing Lu Li was like facing the great patriarchs of the 3 major races? This attitude was way too humble. Ah ha ha. Lu Li laughed out loud. Looking at Rong Yin, he said, I am here to destroy the Holy Lady sect. Master Rong, you are being so polite. How can I do it? The patriarchs around were shocked, but Rong Yin remained calm. She said with a sweet smile, Lord Lu, don't scare us. We're just a bunch of girls, and we are timid. Lord Lu, you want us to surrender. If you want Rong Yin to work for you, you don't have to do it. This is negotiable. Rong Yin knelt to the point and directly talked about surrendering. She knew very well that the Holy Lady sect was no match for Lu Li. Not even the 3 major sects could stand a chance against Lu Li, let alone the Holy Lady sect. The 3 alien races had more than 6 million warriors, 6 of which were close to the consummate realm, and so many saint kings. Almost all of them were killed by Lu Li alone. What was the strength of the female holy sect? If Lu Li wanted to, he could flatten the Holy Lady sect in minutes. Rong Yin wanted to surrender, but she did not say it out loud. She wanted to gain more benefits. Lu Li was on the side of the Celestial Emperor sect. The Holy Lady sect and the Celestial Emperor sect were like fire and water. If they surrendered, what should they do? Should they be below the Celestial Emperor sect or on an equal footing with them? If the Celestial Emperor sect wanted to deal with them, would Lu Li help either side or the Celestial Emperor sect? Ha ha ha. Lu Li laughed and said with mockery, "What do I need the Holy Lady sect for? Your sect's battle strength is meaningless to me." Lu Li's words enraged the patriarchs of the Holy Lady sect. The Holy Lady sect was the second most powerful force in the endless ruins of gods. After the Celestial Emperor sect was destroyed, the Holy Lady sect became the ruler of the endless ruins of gods. How could Lu Li say that the Holy Lady sect was useless? If Lu Li were close to the consummate realm, they might be afraid. But Lu Li was only at the initial stage of the Saint King realm. How could he be so arrogant? His tone made him sound like a god, and the Saintess sect was like a small sect in the mortal world. Of course we are useful. The master of the Holy Lady sect was not angry at all. Instead, she blushed and said, "The Holy Lady sect has hundreds of thousands of disciples, and they are all beauties. Our disciples are proficient in all kinds of strange skills. I am sure that you will be happy, Lord Lu. Also, the Holy Lady sect has many allied families and sections. If we surrender, then the entire endless ruins of gods will surrender. Lord Lu, don't you want the entire endless ruins of gods?" Ha 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 ha. Lu Li burst into laughter. He shook his head and sighed. "You are a bunch of frogs at the bottom of a well. The endless ruins of gods is only a small universe. Any of the 8 galaxies has tens of thousands of universes like yours. I have over 1,000 universes under my command. What do I need the endless ruins of gods for?" Look, the patriarchs looked at each other and whispered to each other. They were discussing the truth of Lu Li's words. Rong Yin, on the other hand, knew very well that Lu Li was telling the truth. She turned pale. After a moment of silence, she asked pitifully, "Lord Lu, do you really have to be so heartless? Do you have to put us to death?" Lu Li felt disgusted that an old lady was acting pitiful. After a moment of silence, he said, "It is okay if you don't want to be destroyed. Disband the sect. Then, all the higher-ups can go to the Celestial Emperor's city and wait for the Celestial Emperor's sect to deal with you. 1 P.S. I have dementia and forgot to update again." Chapter 35:53. Since Lu Li had put it this way, there was nothing more to say. Disband the sect and wait for the Heaven Emperor's sect to deal with it? What was the difference between that and waiting for death? Given the hatred between the Heaven Emperor's sect and them, death was the only thing awaiting them. The chances of them surviving were slim. All the patriarchs were ready to kill. They were waiting for Rong Yan's order. There were more than 30 Saint Emperors and more than 100 Great Emperors here. Almost all the powerful warriors of the Holy Lady sect were here, and some were their allies. If so many powerful warriors were to attack together, many patriarchs believed that Lu Li would die for sure as long as they could make one successful move. Aha! Rong Yan's expressions did not change. She was still begging. She bowed again and said, "Lord Lu, is this necessary? How about—" Before Rong Yin could finish her sentence, she dashed toward Lu Li like a sharp sword. At the same time, more than a dozen Saint Emperors nearby took actions as well. They dashed toward Lu Li and released all kinds of horrifying moves in midair. Buzzing. Just as the master of the Holy Lady sect made her move, the battleship suddenly disappeared. At the same time, Lu Li disappeared as well. All the powerful warriors missed their target. The space where Lu Li was cracked open, and a huge black hole appeared. The horrifying force of space distortion spread out. If there were warriors at the center of the black hole, they would be torn apart even if they were close to the consummate realm. Lu Li was not torn apart. He didn't even show himself. It was as if he had teleported away. Rong Yin and the other powerful warriors kept on attacking. They expanded the range of their attacks to an area with a radius of hundreds of miles. However, the space over there was torn apart again and again, but Lu Li did not show himself. "Find him." Rong Yin looked around coldly. She had a bad feeling. According to the information from the Blood Rock race, Boring Blade race, and the Talisman race, Lu Li had the ability to appear and disappear unpredictably. Every time he launched a sneak attack, powerful warriors of the 3 races that were close to the consummate realm would be killed. Many powerful warriors were trying to track him down, but none could find him. Rongyan did not move. There were 6 other Saint Emperors around her. She had ordered them to surround her. She was afraid that Lu Li would sneak up on her. With the Saint Emperors around, Lu Li would have to kill one Saint Emperor to give her enough time to react. She could either run or attack Lu Li. A while later, a miserable shriek rang out in the distance. A Saint King had been slain by a blade that had appeared out of nowhere. Right at that moment, Lu Li showed up. He was in a hall on a peak. Lu Li had snuck over without anyone noticing. Xiao. Many powerful warriors swarmed over, and many attacks were aimed at the palace Lu Li was in. But Lu Li had vanished. The attacks smashed a bunch of palaces, but none of them hit Lu Li. As the group of experts searched the surroundings, there was an ear-piercing sound of space being ripped apart. Afterward, the traceless blade appeared once again and killed another Saint King. The supreme divine weapon not only had a Tao seal at the Great Perfection Realm, but it also had a trace of the might of the Great Perfection Realm. It would be difficult to kill experts who were infinitely close to the Great Perfection Realm, but it would be easy to kill Saint Emperors. Every time Lu Li attacked, he would flash away. However, there were no powerful warriors around him. After he succeeded in his attack, he immediately went into hiding. Therefore, the experts of the Saintist sect were fooled by him. His figure constantly flashed, and every time he appeared, he would take away a corpse. Master, at this rate, all of our Saint Kings will die. A Saint King next to Rong Yin said, flustered and exasperated. Rong Yin did not give any orders, so she could only watch. Rong Yan's expression was clouded. She did not know what to do. Lu Li's skill of hiding was amazing. Every time he disappeared, she would try everything she could to find him, but she could not find any trace of him. It would be a miracle if Rong Yin could find him when even the Great Perfection Realm could not. Let's go as well. Be stealthy and attack quickly. Don't stray too far away from me. Rong Yin told the Saint Kings separately. They could not stay here. All the patriarchs of the Saintist sect were dead. It was pointless for them to stay. They quietly flew towards the battlefield, all of them concealing their auras. Charge! After Lu Li appeared again, Rong Yin suddenly yelled. Her eyes glowed in 7 colors. She began to dance in the air as well. Her clothes became translucent, and she emitted an alluring energy that could enchant the world. Only the master of the Saintist sect and the master of the Saintist sect could cultivate this kind of skill of seduction. Rong Yin believed that any man would pause for at least one breath. For a powerhouse of her level, she could do many things in a single breath of time. At this moment, Lu Li did pause for one breath. This skill of seduction was amazing. His soul was not invulnerable. When he came back to his senses, the master of the Saintist sect had flown over. She reached out a hand to his face gently, like a lover caressing a lover. Buzzing, the gong huang ding appeared in Lu Li's hand. It enlarged and smashed at the hand. At the same time, Lu Li entered the magic realm. Bang! The hand landed on the gong huang ding, but the gong huang ding did not tremble. Instead, it was growing bigger. Then, the gong huang ding flew up to Rong Yan's head. Thousands of rays of light poured down, enveloping Rong Yan and a Saint Emperor. This is another supreme divine weapon. Rong Yan and that Saint Emperor were both trapped. They did not fall down. They were trapped in midair. The gong huang ding did not rely on gravity, but on the laws inside. The thousands of rays of light were the seals of laws inside the gong huang ding, engraved in the gong huang ding. Master, the Saint Emperors and Saint Emperors nearby were taken aback. Many came over, and some powerful warriors began to attack the gong huang ding. But that was a supreme divine weapon. How could their attacks affect it? Lu Li came out from the magic realm and went back to hiding. Every time he was some distance away, he swung the traceless sword again and killed another Saint Emperor. Instead of attacking Rong Yin, Lu Li continued to attack the Saint Emperors and Saint Emperors. He did it on purpose. If he wanted to kill Rong Yin now, it would be easy. He could sneak over and release flames or the divine liquid of destruction. But he did not do it right away. Instead, He let Rong Yin watch as all the powerful warriors of the Holy Maiden sect were slaughtered. Boom, 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 boom. Lu Li kept swinging his saber as if he were cutting leeks. Every time he made a move, he could take away a powerful warrior's life. There were only a few times when he missed, but those powerful warriors were still badly injured. Oh no, oh no. Rong Yin had been trying to break free from Gong Huangding's control. But no matter what she did, she could not get rid of Gong Huangding. She watched as the powerful warriors of her sect were killed. She was filled with rage and reluctance. When all the powerful warriors were killed, it would be her turn. Where's Lao and I? Why hasn't he done anything yet? That old thing won't run away, right? Rong Yin had an idea. She had an ally in the main peak. She told this warrior, who was infinitely close to the consummate realm, to act according to the circumstances. But he had not made a move yet. It was highly likely that he had run away. Third Master. Chapter 35:54. An hour later, all the emperors and saint emperors of the Holy Girl sect were killed, except for Rong Yin and another saint emperor. Queen of Shadow was killed as well. Lu Li didn't even bother to flirt with Queen of Shadow. He killed her directly. Lu Li had sensed the presence of the ally of the Holy Girl sect. Just as Rong Yin thought, that ally had slipped away. Powerful warriors of other sects that were lurking nearby had left. They were all frightened by Lu Li. They had been watching, but they all sneaked away when they saw Rong Yin being suppressed by the Gong Huangding. So, Lu Li was just as powerful as the rumors said. He did wipe out the armies and powerful warriors of the three alien races all by himself. If they didn't leave now, then death would be the only thing waiting for them. It was certain that the Holy Girl sect would be destroyed. If they stayed, then their sects would be destroyed as well. Lu Li flew over slowly with a traceless saber in his hand. The Saint Emperor that was suppressed along with Rong Yin was killed by Lu Li. Rong Yin was the only powerful warrior of the Holy Girl sect left. Rong Yin was lying in midair, which was quite an indecent sight. She stared at Lu Li with her eyes wide open. There was no hatred or anger in her eyes, only pleading and longing. Lord Lu. It was difficult for her to speak, but she could send a message. Lord Lu, please don't kill me. I can be your slave or slave, as long as you don't kill me. Oh, Lu Li was tempted. He asked, you are willing to offer your seal of soul and become my soul slave? What is a soul slave? Rong Yin asked, and then her pretty face turned pale. She was experienced and knowledgeable, so she quickly understood. Soul slave, as the name suggested, was a slave that could control the soul. Once the soul was controlled, the soul slave would be a slave for the rest of her life. She would never have the chance to regain her freedom. Rong Yin was a person with pride. She was a powerful warrior that was very close to the consummate realm. She was the chief of the Holy Girl sect, and recently, she had become the empress of the Endless Ruins. To become Lu Li's soul slave and be controlled by him for the rest of her life like a walking dead was a fate worse than death. However, after a while, Rong Yin's survival instinct occupied her soul again. After a person knelt once, they would get used to kneeling a second time and a third time. After the invasion of the three races, she had surrendered. In fact, at that time, she had already let go of her pride and dignity. Therefore, after a moment of silence, she said, Lord Lu, how about I be your slave for 1,000 years? You must swear a chief godblood oath to return my freedom after 1,000 years. Otherwise, I'd rather die. Then go to hell. Lu Li swung the traceless saber in his hand and pressed toward Rong Yin. Rong Yin was panicking. She said in a hurry, 5,000 years, no, 10,000 years. You have no right to bargain, Lu Li said coldly. Either you surrender unconditionally, or you die. Lu Li lifted the saber in his hand. It was glaring as he poured his source energy into it. He was ready to hack at Rong Yin at any time. The cold killing intent made Rong Yin tremble. Rong Yin thought for a while. Her expressions changed constantly. She could see that Lu Li's saber was glowing brighter and his killing intent was getting stronger. She said, Lord Lu, 100,000 years, 100,000 years should be enough, right? 3, 2, 1. Lu Li started the countdown. At the count of 1, Rong Yan's mind collapsed. She said, I surrender, I surrender. I will do whatever you say. Too late. Lu Li hacked at Rong Yan's head with force. The next second, a relic helmet appeared over Rong Yan's head. It was an advanced one. Lu Li's move was blocked by the relic helmet, but there was a crack on the relic helmet. Whoosh! Lu Li hacked at her again and again. Rong Yan's helmet was cracked, and her head was injured. Rong Yan was in a panic. She said, Lord Lu, stop. I will do whatever you say. I am willing to be your dog. I will do whatever you want me to do. Lu Li sneered. I will tell you the truth. I never thought about letting you live. The creed of the Holy Maiden sect is twisted. A sect like yours cannot survive in the world. Demons like you cannot live in the world. How many innocent girls have been harmed by you? You deserve to die. Boom, 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 boom. Lu Li hacked at her. Rong Yan's head was crushed, and the master of the Holy Maiden sect died. Almost all the master and powerful warriors of the Holy Maiden sect were killed. Lu Li didn't have to worry about the rest. The Celestial Emperor sect would wipe the Holy Maiden sect off the face of the world. After Rong Yan was killed, Lu Li took a look at the main peaks. Many disciples of the Holy Maiden sect were trembling, fearing that Lu Li would kill them all. Lu Li didn't bother to kill those low-level disciples. He left on his battleship after he made sure that there were no powerful warriors. The ruins of divinity had almost been pacified. The Celestial Emperor sect could take care of the rest. Lu Li didn't have to worry about such trifles. What he should be concerned about was the counterattack of the allied forces of the 3 alien races and the reaction of the rhinoceros apes. Lu Li had asked the Grim Reaper of the Universe region to keep an eye on the rhinoceros apes. If there was any movement, Grim Reaper would send a message. Lu Li went back to the Celestial Emperor city. The city had been restored. The damaged palaces were repaired, and the destroyed castles were rebuilt. Because of the gathering of many families and sects, the city had regained its prosperity. When Lu Li returned, a patriarch of the Celestial Emperor sect came to greet him with the so-called big shots in the city. Welcome, Lord Lu. Hundreds of thousands of warriors and warriors dropped to one knee. Their eyes were filled with passion and respect. Lu Li had defeated the 3 alien races and wiped out the Holy Maiden sect all by himself. Lu Li was the savior of the ruins of divinity. If it were not for Lu Li, the ruins of divinity would have sunk into oblivion and the civilians would have been enslaved by the 3 alien races. Lu Li was the savior of the ruins of divinity. Rise! The runes on Lu Li's battleship disappeared. He appeared on the deck. He waved his hand with a smile and glanced over the warriors on the ground. His gaze suddenly stopped as he saw 2 familiar figures. Whoosh! He flew down from the battleship and arrived in front of a beautiful lady and a strong man. Lu Li grinned and said, Sister, brother, it has been a while. The beautiful lady's cheeks blushed. She was in high spirits. The strong man's cheeks were glowing as well. His hands were trembling with excitement. The pretty lady said with a grin, Little brother, I didn't know that you still have me as your sister. Ning Shui, mind your manners. A dignified, middle-aged man next to her scolded, Bow to Lord Lu. He is the savior of the ruins of divinity. Ha ha ha. Lu Li laughed and said, Wang family master, you don't have to do this. I am not a man who will forget old friendships. Sister Ning Shui, you have taken care of me, and I am grateful. Brother Hu and the Hu family have done me a great favor. If I could forget this, I would not be a human being. Okay. Hu Simeng was so excited that he was about to cry. He grabbed Lu Li's arm and said, Lu Li, I was right about you. You're my good brother. Wang family and Hu family are going to rise to the top. Many powerful warriors of other families and sects nearby were filled with jealousy. Lu Li was almost the uncrowned king of the ruins of divinity. Because of Lu Li, Wang family and Hu family would rise to the top. In a few hundred years, they would become the top families of the ruins of divinity. Remember the mobile website, Chapter 3560 Rise to the Top, page 1/1. Bookmark for easier reading. Thought you're tuning into the warrior lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.